Chapter 5:15. The green fog gradually filled the air, and the people outside the encirclement also started to slowly retreat. They kept a distance of several hundred feet from that green fog. The subordinates of dark bamboo were clearly ahead of everyone in the three directions. Their swords and hands were flashing. They were glaring like tigers watching their prey. They were ready to attack at any time. Chu Yang watched with rapt attention. He was secretly startled. A spirit beast is worthy of being called a spirit beast. It can contend against the joint attack of Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu. It has fallen into a disadvantageous position. It can't rush out no matter how hard it tries. However, it isn't injured. The terror of a spirit beast can be seen from this. Suddenly, a strange and hoarse hissing sound was heard while Chu Yang was pondering. He hastily looked up, and saw that the viper had suddenly soared into the sky with a hissing sound. Then, a red shadow soared into the sky. Everyone who heard the viper's hissing sound couldn't help but feel a burst of dizziness in their heads. And they started to hallucinate. Jun Shizhu and Elder Yu whistled, and launched a pincer attack from both sides. Three shadows soared into the sky at the same time. Their speed was so fast that they had left behind countless afterimages. This had created a kind of extreme visual illusion. The people who didn't have time to raise their heads could clearly see that there were still three shadows fighting. The people who had just raised their heads could see that there were three shadows fighting in the sky. And the people who had raised their heads could also see that there were three shadows fighting in the sky. The green rainbow blood snake wanted to escape. This was something that everyone on the scene could see. Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu also understood this. Therefore, they had simultaneously intensified their attacks. They would have killed the green rainbow blood snake if they hadn't wanted to capture it alive. However, both of them had already realized that it was impossible to capture this spirit beast alive. Duke Yu let out a long and loud shout, "I'll smash you down. You quickly go and take a breath." His voice hadn't faded when a green shadow flashed. And the sky was suddenly filled with green-robed silhouettes. Jun Shizhu suddenly turned into a black line, and rushed outside. She went 1,000 feet away in a flash. Then, she finally opened her mouth and took a breath of the spiritual energy of the world. Her tiptoes touched the ground, and her body transformed into a rainbow as she rushed back. It turned out that these two experts had been holding their breaths while fighting the green rainbow blood snake. It seems that these two people don't dare to breathe the poisonous gas of the green rainbow blood snake even with their cultivation, Chu Yang thought to himself. Duke Yu suddenly exhaled and roared when Jun Shizhu flew out, "Get down!" The green figure suddenly flew up and arrived above the green rainbow blood snake. Then, he ruthlessly struck the green rainbow blood snake's head with his palm. Then, he followed up with more than 10 consecutive palm strikes, and smashed the green rainbow blood snake's 3 head. The green light blood snake let out a blood-curdling screech as its body fell to the ground. In the process of falling, Duke Yu followed closely from high up in the sky. His 2 legs flipped as he continuously kicked the green light blood snake's body hundreds of times. With a pu sound, the 3 heads of the green light blood snake simultaneously spat out blood arrows. 3 streaks of blood shot out in 3 different directions and landed on the snowy ground. A sea of crimson red. The eyes of the experts from the aristocratic families turned green as they stared at the 3 pools of blood. Yes, that's what we need. Even if we can only get half of it, it can still be considered as a rewarding journey. The green rainbow blood snake fiercely fell on the snowy ground with a bang sound. The ice fragments swirled in the air. The blood that had just landed on the ground also flew up. Suddenly, the shadows of people rushed towards the 3 pools of blood in the air. They were mixed with angry curses. "It's mine. Don't snatch it. Get lost. Why are you snatching it? Kill this bastard. I got a little, ha ha ha." A king-level expert of the Meng clan had just gotten his hands on it when he was dismembered by the world-defying stage heavens. Everyone's eyes turned red in front of such a strong temptation. "You bunch of bastards!" Jun Shizhu angrily shouted, "Kill them all." These people had come to snatch the blood of spirit beasts. The scene was chaotic, and the green rainbow blood snake had a chance to escape. It let out a strange cry, and its 3 heads attacked at the same time. It used its tail to block Duke Yu's heavy blow. Then, it jumped out like lightning. Duke Yu roared angrily and flew over. The green rainbow blood snake was fleeing in the direction of Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wu Shong. It seemed that this beast also knew how to bully the weak and fear the strong. The number of people in this direction was the smallest. Moreover, it didn't move. It had its back towards Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu. It was rushing towards them with a reckless speed and posture. Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wu Shong shouted loudly. One saber and one sword attacked at the same time. They met the attack head-on. The saber light was as vast as the heavenly river. The sword light was like a meteor in the sky. One was as sharp as a sword that could pierce the blue sky. The other was as vigorous and overbearing as if it could chop off the earth under its feet. The green rainbow blood snake exposed a startled look in its eyes. Fuck. So, this old man was hiding in the direction where the attack was the strongest. The green rainbow blood snake would have certainly said these words in grief if it could speak. Those people who were flying around to snatch things were far inferior to these two men. Fuck. The attacks of the saber and sword kings fiercely collided with the body of the green rainbow blood snake. A bang sound was heard. Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wu Shong spat out blood and flew backward. However, the irresistible speed of the green rainbow blood snake suddenly came to a halt. It stopped in mid-air. This little bit of time was enough to announce the death sentence of this green rainbow blood snake. Duke Yu let out a long and loud shout as he rushed over. His foot stretched out at lightning speed, and stomped on the tail of the green rainbow blood snake. His saber light flashed at the same time, and a series of bang 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 sounds were heard. Duke Yu's saber was unceasingly chopping at the necks of the three heads of the green rainbow blood snake. That layer of scales was extremely hard. Duke Yu's saber couldn't cut it off. So, he simply continued to attack. The green rainbow blood snake screamed miserably. It struggled, and blood flew out little by little. Jun Shizhu's shadow flew over. Her saber-like palm chopped at the body of the green rainbow blood snake. Then, she clenched her fist, and fiercely pounded it. 3 bang-bang sounds were heard as the 3 heads of the green rainbow blood snake were smashed into the ground. She shouted loudly, "Little you idiot. You should have smashed its heads into the ground first. Why are you chopping its necks? Its neck is the hardest part of its body. There's almost no weapon in the world that can break its defense. You're simply wasting your strength." She punched the 3 heads of the green rainbow blood snake again as she spoke, and smashed them back into the ground. Duke Yu smiled in ridicule. "Motherfucker, I'm a dignified Duke Yu, but I've been called an idiot. And, I don't dare to talk back. This is my aunt. I can't afford to offend her." Chu Yang was dumbstruck as he looked at this scene. His eyebrows were twitching. This woman is really violent. Then, Duke Yu and Jun Shizhu started to hit the snake with bang 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 sounds. The 2 leaders of the dark bamboo hammered the green rainbow blood snake as if they were hammering a sack. They didn't know how many times they had hammered it. The green rainbow blood snake was still struggling and twisting in the beginning. But, its head was once again smashed down like a thunderbolt as soon as it lifted up from the ground. This continued for 7 or 8 times. And, the green rainbow blood snake gradually stopped moving. "It's almost done." Jun Shizhu gasped for breath. Then, she straightened her body, and grabbed the tail of the green rainbow blood snake. She then dragged the snake out of the ground. Its entire body had turned soft, and vomited. Its joints had been dislocated from the beating. In fact, it couldn't be more dead. Jun Shizhu looked at the dead green rainbow blood snake with some suspicion. She then wrinkled her brows. How did it die so easily? Duke Yu came over, and stroked his chin. He was also puzzled after pondering for a long time. Something's wrong. How did it get killed so easily? Moreover, it had a weak appearance since the beginning of the fight. Chu Yang secretly smacked his lips as he walked over. Such a powerful spirit beast. But, it had a weak appearance. Jun Shizhu wrinkled her brows. She turned her palm, and a small and exquisite dagger appeared in her hand. It flashed with a cold light, and slashed down with a shua sound. The snake's skin was once extremely hard. Jun Shizhu's complexion became even more unsightly. She cut open the bone with the dagger. Then, She dipped her finger into the blood and put it into her mouth. She vomited twice. Then, she suddenly became furious. Bastard. Who took away half of this snake's blood essence? Dukyu was startled. What? He also dipped his finger into the blood and tasted it. Then, a strange look appeared on his face. The blood essence has been taken away. Who has such great ability? They caught it alive and took its blood essence. Moreover, they didn't even leave a single scar on its body. It's still alive and kicking after the blood essence has been taken away. This matter is extremely strange. Half of the blood essence of a lively spirit beast has been taken away. What kind of heaven-defying and earth-penetrating divine ability could accomplish this? Jun Shiju's face was already filled with murderous aura. Damn it! This overlord of the dark bamboo moved like lightning. She broke the 3 heads of the green rainbow blood snake with 3 pop sounds. Then, she took out 3 inner cores, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 green. She then kicked the corpse of the green rainbow blood snake and sent it flying. This kick was very fierce. It was sent flying for more than 1,000 feet. Then, it exploded in the air, violent, valiant, powerful, overbearing, awesome. Chu Yang and the few brothers who had gathered around suddenly became silent out of fear. Even Dukyu was dumbstruck. His eyebrows were twitching crazily, and the muscles on his face were constantly twitching. He turned his head away with a look of lingering fear on his face after a long time. Fortunately, the wife I've found is her younger sister, and not her. This is really scary. Oh God, you're a good person. These 3 inner cores are far from meeting my requirements. Jun Shiju sighed and said, the blood essence has been taken away. So, how can I? Suddenly, he turned around and shouted sternly, kill those bastards who only know how to take advantage of others and spoil the situation. Bastards. You dare to come and snatch the things that I, Jun Shiju, want? You've got dog guts. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. She angrily said, kill them all. Kill them all. You want the blood of spirit beasts? I'll let you drink your own blood. A person who could catch a spirit beast with his bare hands and extract its blood essence without injuring it in the slightest, was definitely a legendary existence. Jun Shiju knew that she couldn't afford to provoke such a person. She had nowhere to vent her anger. So, she decided to vent it on these people. The subordinates of the dark bamboo rushed forward with a murderous look on their faces. A group of king-level experts wailed like ghosts and fled in all directions. Dukyu angrily shouted, especially these people of the Meng clan. Kill them all. They were the first ones to attack. Do you think I didn't see it? The people of the Meng clan were suddenly in a tragic situation. They were so scared that they almost lost control of their bowels. They felt wronged, grieved, and indignant. So many people attacked together. Why did you only see us? I'm going to drink. Today's guests have arrived. I can't catch up with them. So, I'm going to drown my sorrows in alcohol. Chapter 5:16. The others relaxed as soon as they heard this. They knew that Dukyu wanted to mess with the Meng clan. So, they ran away without looking back. Only the people of the Meng clan were surrounded. These 8 people were dumbfounded. God knows how our Meng clan offended Dukyu. Fuck, we are done for. Not only did we fail to achieve our objective, but we will also lose our lives here. However, they didn't know that they had such bad luck because they hadn't offended Dukyu. Instead, they had offended King of Hell Chu. The crisis of the Meng clan had arisen from Meng Luo's desire to lay his hands on Mo Qingwu. They would have rushed home and crippled Meng Luo's evil technique if they knew about this. But, they had no chance. Master you can't do this. The leader of the Meng clan's elder shouted in a sobbing tone, when did our Meng clan offend a friend of the dark bamboo? We have always been. His voice hadn't faded when Dukyu's face turned as cold as frost. He waved his hand, kill them, roar. Hundreds of dark bamboo experts roared and pounced forward. Suddenly, screams were heard. Let's stake it all. That Meng clan's elder roared in despair. He knew that he had no more luck. However, his words didn't get any response. We are facing hundreds of experts of the dark bamboo. Moreover, there are hundreds of king-level experts among them. Stake it all? Stake it all with what? Jun Shiju tilted her head slightly. She smiled and said, "Little you seem to hate the Meng clan to the core." Duke Yu faintly smiled, "I don't care. Everyone in the world is like a dog or a pig in my eyes. However, the King of Hell wants them dead." Jun Shiju said, "Oh. Since the King of Hell wants them dead, then we can't let them live." Duke Yu smiled. Chu Yang came over with Jiyu Duxing and the others at this moment. Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushong had been severely shaken a moment ago. But they had already returned to normal. "We need to discuss this matter at length." Duke Yu tightly knitted his brows and said, "Chu Yang, I need your help." "What help?" Chu Yang asked. "I believe that you've seen that our purpose is the blood essence of Spirit Beast. This is very useful to me and Bamboo." Duke Yu muttered to himself for a while. Then, he said, "But something unexpected has happened in the current situation. The blood essence of the Spirit Beast was taken away by someone. We definitely can't defeat this person." Duke Yu heaved a sigh of relief as a gloomy and sullen look flashed across his eyes. If his cultivation hadn't been crippled once, he would have been on par with the person who extracted the blood of a spirit beast. But now, he was far inferior. How could he not be sullen? "I can tell you this." Duke Yu weighed his words and said, "I am the world-defying stage. I need a complete inner core of a spirit beast to heal my injuries. I had forcefully increased my strength since I was injured the last time. So, I ended up with a chronic illness. My strength drops to emperor level for a period of time every year. But my strength recovers after this period of time. In this situation, we need the inner core of a spirit beast to make up for it. Bamboo needs the blood essence of spirit beasts to increase its cultivation and break through its current bottleneck." Duke Yu said in a heavy voice, "Therefore, our dark bamboo has come to the northern wilderness in such a big way. With our strength, we wouldn't have been able to escape as long as a spirit beast appeared. But there's obviously a change now. Someone is extracting the blood essence of a spirit beast. We can't use the blood essence that he has extracted. For example, this green rainbow blood snake." Chu Yang nodded. He finally understood the reason, "So, that's how it is. So, we need you and your brothers to help us." Jun Shiju said, "King of Hell Chu, I will divide the manpower into 8 teams in a moment. And each team will need to be led by someone. But no one can pose a threat to a spirit beast apart from me and little you if you want to do so. But you guys can." Jun Shiju looked at Chu Yang and the others with a somewhat envious look in her eyes. "That's because all of you have divine weapons in your hand. You want each of us to lead a team, right?" Chu Yang said straightforwardly, "That's not a problem." Chu Yang had seen that Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushong were already 5th grade king-level experts when they had made their moves a moment ago. It was enough to see that the elixirs and Duke Yu's guidance had produced good results in the past few days. Chu Yang would have separated from his brothers even if Jun Shiju hadn't asked him to do so. He would have let them go out to gain experience on their own. They would have had to touch their own understanding of the great path between life and death. "Good. I will give each of you a sensing purple crystal. You can inject your spiritual power into the sensing purple crystal as long as you find something. We will receive it immediately." Jun Shiju said, "In addition, I will place the lotus core of the mysterious ice jade lotus in the ice field of the northern wilderness to lure the wind fox here. We will surround it from all directions as long as the wind fox appears. We can't let it escape in any case." She sighed deeply and said, "The wind fox is the fastest spirit beast among all the spirit beasts. It's also the most difficult to catch one. But we have no choice but to target it now. This person who has come to extract the blood essence of a spirit beast is truly hateful." Chu Yang understood in his heart, the wind fox is the fastest. So, Jun Shiju obviously isn't sure about this. But it's possible to preserve the blood essence because of its fast speed. "Good." Chu Yang agreed. Jiyu Duxing and the others were eager to give it a try. Moreover, you must pay attention to one thing. If you come across a person with a big sarcoma on his face, he's short and fat. Don't get involved with him. Avoid him if you can't. But, don't provoke him if you can't avoid him. Jun Shizhu hesitated for a moment. Then, she finally said, he's a member of the Xiao clan of the Upper Three Heavens. Don't get into a conflict with him. Xiao clan of the Upper Three Heavens. Chu Yang silently muttered. Moreover, spirit beasts have never appeared in the Upper Three Heavens. But, so many of them have appeared this time. They must be from ancient times. Moreover, some mysterious experts will also appear. You must be careful. Jun Shizhu exhorted again. I'll remember, Chu Yang solemnly replied. Good. Let's start the operation immediately. We'll be in danger of being preemptively attacked if we're late. Jun Shizhu made a prompt decision. She immediately issued a series of orders. She spoke in a clear and organized manner. She separated the troops in an instant, and said, please. Then, she led her team and left like the wind. Dukyu laughed out loud. Then, he floated in the air, and said with a smile, King of Hell Chu, this is the first time we've cooperated. His voice hadn't faded when he disappeared in the boundless snow. Jiyu Du Xing cupped his fists in greeting. Take care of yourself, big brother. Chu Yang hastily shouted, you guys, wait a moment. What's the matter? Dong Wu Shong stopped his footsteps. Let me take a look at your sabers and swords. Have they been damaged in the recent battles? Chu Yang asked in a soft voice. There's certainly some damage, but it's not serious, Jiyu Du Xing smiled. He took out the black dragon sword, and handed it over. Luo Ku Di and Ji Mo also handed over their swords. Dong Wu Shong held his saber, and stood on one side. Chu Yang used his hand to check them one by one. He said after a long time, there's no problem. I'm relieved. Haha, you guys go. Don't delay the important matters. The four of them each led a team and set off. Everyone was full of doubts. What's the matter with Big Brother? Does he want to pass our sabers and swords just to take a look? Just to touch them? The four of them felt that their weapons seemed to be a little different after Chu Yang touched them. But, they couldn't tell what exactly was different. Everyone muttered in their hearts, seems like it's just my imagination. As they thought about it, they disappeared without a trace. Chu Yang watched them leave, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Just now, he had already used the Calamity Sword to transform these few sabers and swords. The touch of the sun and moon ointment and the injection of the true essence of the weapons had already made these few sabers and swords extraordinary. Instead, they had become divine weapons that could produce spirituality. This benefit could only be truly shown when Jiyu Du Xing, Dong Wu Shong, and the others used it to a certain extent. Moreover, the sabers and swords drank more and more blood. Let's go too. Chu Yang held Mo Ching Wu's small hand, and nodded to the 40 people following him. He said, follow me. Then, he chose a direction and sped away. Among the 40 people, there were 20 king-level experts, and the rest were all low-grade revered martial artists. They obviously didn't trust the young man assigned by the monarch, but they still resolutely carried out his order and sped away. The wind and snow were everywhere, and it was a vast expanse. When the old man who chased after them reached this place, there was already no one left. Only corpses were left on the ground. He sniffed and suddenly said angrily, who is this? He actually used a deceptive tactic. There were more than 10 waves of people, and they all went in different directions. Isn't this torturing these old bones of mine? With a whoosh, he suddenly flew a little higher, and chased forward in the sky like dancing on the clouds. He muttered, I don't believe that I can't find you. However, he was endlessly blaming himself in his heart. Look at you. You should have just rushed down and done with it. Now, you actually have to look for a needle in a haystack. Why did you stare blankly for a while? You're really looking for trouble. If the other old man saw you, it would be over. Not long after Chu Yang ran, he felt that the sensing purple crystal in his hand was a little hot. He took it out and looked at it. There seemed to be a faint white line on it, pointing to the west. Chu Yang immediately changed his direction and followed the direction the purple crystal was pointing to. He suddenly became a little curious about this sensing purple crystal. This thing is really a good thing. With this thing, I really don't have to be afraid of losing contact with my brothers. In case any of them is in danger, I can rescue them in time. Chapter 5:17. Chu Yang hadn't had time to open his mouth when a king-level expert stepped forward and shouted, "I belong to the dark bamboo. I'll borrow your path for 3 days. What kind of friend is Fang Shui?" His voice sounded like a bronze bell, and shattered the snowflakes in the sky. A white shadow flashed in front of them. He said in a gentle and refined manner, "I'm Ao Clan's Xie Yun. I've come here to hunt spirit beasts. Since the dark bamboo is borrowing your path, brothers, make way." The flat snow-covered ground in front of them turned over as soon as the order was given. More than a dozen people stood up, and retreated to both sides. "So, it's Ao Clan's Xie Yun," that king-level expert said in a deep voice. "Thank you." Chu Yang cupped his hands towards Ao Xie Yun, and took the lead to rush out. He disappeared in the wind and snow in front of them in the blink of an eye. "Isn't that King of Hell Chu? Why is he here?" Ao Xie Yun muttered to himself as he saw more than 40 people rolling away. His heart was full of doubts. Then, he waved his hand, "Continue to hide. Act according to the plan as soon as someone chases a spirit beast." Everyone complied. The snow-covered ground moved up and down. Then, everyone went back to hide. It was obvious that Ao Xie Yun didn't have any assurance that he could track a spirit beast. But, he had chosen the most stupid method: wait for an opportunity. This method was very stupid. But, it was very effective in this world. A spirit beast wouldn't pass through here unless it didn't pass through here. But, they would be able to attack it head-on as long as it passed through here. Even if they weren't lucky enough to obtain the blood essence of the spirit beast, they would still be able to leave a good impression on the person who was chasing the spirit beast. After all, they would be able to obtain a little bit of blood as long as that person obtained the whole body of the spirit beast. A white shadow was coming from the far west. It seemed as if it was carrying a hurricane with it. Its entire body was moving forward. It seemed as if it had taken the form of a solid eye of the hurricane. Moreover, the speed of this white shadow was twice as fast as the wind it was carrying. Sometimes, it would be in the east, and sometimes in the west. It would occasionally flee in the sky, and dazzle people's eyes. Most of the time, by the time you saw the white shadow, it would have already fled far away. This kind of speed was truly shocking. However, this white shadow was clearly panicking. In fact, it seemed as if it was running in a panic. As they ran, they would occasionally squeak in fear. Behind them, a nimble figure was chasing after them in the air. His movement technique was elegant, and he did not seem to be fast or slow. However, every time this figure flashed, he had already crossed a distance of several hundred feet. He reached out to grab the little white figure. The white shadow ran away in panic, and the human shadow also disappeared immediately. "Little darling, don't go. I only want half of your blood essence. I will definitely not harm your life. Be good, don't run." But how could that white shadow not run? He was almost out of breath. Helplessly, the white shadow turned around and dived into the snow, disappearing without a trace. The shadow in the sky let out a cold snort and suddenly stretched out a hand, grabbing at the void. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and 100 feet of the ground was grabbed by his hand. It was as if the entire ground had been lifted up. A huge black hole was revealed. The white shadow flashed and escaped from the big hole in a panic. Then, it flashed and turned into a stream of light, running far away. "Little darling, don't run. Could it be that you still don't understand that you won't be able to escape from my hands?" The figure shook his head and smiled faintly with a somewhat helpless expression. His body flashed across the sky and he chased after her. At this moment, there was a loud roar in the direction where the white shadow was running away. A red shadow soared into the sky as if it was going to burn the sky. The white shadow was overjoyed and ran towards that direction. If it could speak, it would be crying tears of joy. "My dear mother, there is finally a scapegoat." The shadow behind him was startled and said, "Why is the fire lion here? I have no choice but to kill it with a spoon." He sped up and chased after the white shadow. Not long after, there was another earth-shaking roar. It came from another direction. "Hey! This is really strange. How many spirit beasts are there in the world-defying stage? How come there are 3 of them here? Even the single-horned dragon has appeared. The shadow muttered a few words, but this is also good. It saves me a long journey. He chased for dozens of miles and suddenly realized, I was wondering why it was so strange. It turns out that someone put a mysterious ice jade lotus in the heart of the wasteland. Thinking of this, he no longer held back his strength. He let out a long roar and increased his speed. This is terrible. That bastard has also rushed here. The old man who was chasing after Mo Qingwu from behind changed his expression and rushed forward even more exasperatedly. It was not easy for me to find one. Don't let him snatch it away. Then, he slapped himself 3 or 4 times in the face without delay. Who asked you to be so muddle-headed at such a crucial time? Look, this is a little strange. He flew over with a whoosh. In another direction far away, a short and fat guy with a big sarcoma on his forehead sniffed in surprise. He raised his head and listened. Then, he pointed and said, "Over there. Let's go." The 3 of them immediately changed their direction and ran away. In the extreme north, a man in white shook his head helplessly and muttered, "These guys are really too free to come to the upper 3 heavens to hunt spirit beasts. Aren't there plenty of them in the upper 3 heavens? Could it be that they have other motives? No, I have to go and take a look." Just as he was about to move, he cursed and muttered, "I don't know why those 2 old guys came down this time. I'm not their match. Is it the past? Or the past? Or the past? Motherfucker, let's go then." His thin body suddenly straightened up and spun in the air like a top. With a whoosh, he disappeared without a trace. In the middle of a wasteland, Duke Yu's green robe was already fluttering in the wind. He was fighting with a spirit beast whose entire body was like a raging fire. This time, Duke Yu did not show any mercy at all. Every move he made used all his strength. That raging fire spirit beast was smashed until it howled in pain. Duke Yu's complexion was getting redder and redder. His moves were getting heavier and heavier, and his agility was getting faster and faster. 2 shadows, 1 green and 1 red, had already rolled into a ball. They were fighting against each other, and had violently shaken the surrounding snow. A long shadow was flying over from afar. It was a strange creature with a strange horn on its head. It didn't seem to care about the battlefield where Duke Yu was fighting. It shook its head and wagged its tail, and pounced towards the central position. There was a dreamlike lotus in full bloom there. Mysterious ice jade lotus. Lotus heart. Evil creature. Jun Shiju's silhouette left thousands of afterimages in the air. She frantically rushed over, and snatched the mysterious ice jade lotus from under the teeth of this single-horned dragon. She turned her hand, and put it in her bosom. The good thing that was in her hands had flown away out of thin air. How could this single-horned dragon endure this? It suddenly became furious. It opened its big mouth, and roared angrily. Its 4 stump-like legs trampled on the ice field, and made it shake and sway. Jun Shiju's elegant eyebrows wrinkled. She had not expected such a situation to occur. She had only wanted to attract one of these beasts. She had wanted to join forces with Duke Yu, and quickly capture it. However, 2 beasts had come at once. She saw that this single-horned dragon wasn't leaving. It was shaking its head and wagging its tail, and was roaring. It was asking for the mysterious ice jade lotus as if it was a creditor. Jun Shiju felt both angry and amused at the same time. This single-horned dragon is willing to give up its life for the mysterious ice jade lotus. The single-horned dragon flew into a rage when it saw that its demands were fruitless. It soared up, and rolled up its body in the air. Then, it suddenly stretched out, and a round body that was more than 100 feet long suddenly rushed down. It had taken the initiative to launch an attack. This evil creature doesn't know life from death. Jun Shiju became angry. She brandished her palms in the air, and ferociously attacked it. She didn't retreat even a step. That's because Duke Yu would be behind her if she were to retreat. The single-horned dragon let out a muffled roar, and flipped over in the air with its 4 claws facing the sky. Jun Shiju roared loudly, and the accumulated snow in the surroundings was shaken up. She quickly retreated, and cut into Duke Yu's battle circle like lightning. She didn't care that her palms were bleeding. She shook her hands, and crazily threw hundreds of palms towards the fire lion's head. Duke Yu's attack also arrived at the same time. Both of them clearly felt that there were powerful auras approaching them from all four directions at a rapid speed. This matter couldn't be delayed. This thing wouldn't be as if they delayed even a moment. Therefore, both of them were going all out at this moment. It could be said that this fire lion was extremely unlucky. It had been lured here by the elixir, and had come to throw away its life. Its skin, which it had always been proud of, had been cracked open. It had been beaten from top to bottom, and had been turned into a pool of mud. Spirit beasts were indeed powerful. But how could they withstand the siege of two saint-level experts? It didn't even have time to scream. The raging flames were still spurting out from its body. But it had already lost its life. It was buried deep in the ground. Jun Shiju took out a big purple crystal jade bottle. Then, she drew a line with her hand, and extracted the blood essence from the broken spine of the fire lion. Her face exposed a happy expression. It hasn't been extracted. It's completely intact. She finished extracting the blood essence, and took out the inner core of the fire lion. Then, she saw that Duke Yu and the single-horned dragon were already in a tumultuous fight. The single-horned dragon let out a strange cry when it saw that she had raised her head to look at it. It endured Duke Yu's attack, and rolled backwards. Then, it turned around, and fled in a panic. It couldn't deal with one of them. So, how could it deal with two of them? These two human beings were too frightening for this dragon. It hadn't thought about the consequences when the elixir had been snatched away. But it had fainted now. Spirit beasts certainly had their dignity. So, it was obviously very shameful to flee. But it was better than that stupid lion being skinned alive, right? However, it didn't even notice that it had deviated from the direction it had come from. It wasn't heading towards the direction it had come from. Instead, it was heading towards the east. A small white shadow was crazily fleeing from the east, and was accompanied by a whistling tornado. Today, the second watch, the third watch, I'm working hard. Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 518. With a whooshing sound, this small white shadow had already skimmed under the single-horned dragon's body. With the help of the single-horned dragon's huge body, it was about to run away. Suddenly, a strong aura similar to the aura of the person who had been chasing it appeared in front of it. And in the other two directions, there were also strong auras approaching at the same time. Was this an inescapable trap? This small white shadow suddenly panicked. Even with the strength of a spirit beast, its claws were actually numb at this moment. Its eyes rolled a few times, and suddenly felt a very familiar aura from another direction. Without hesitation, it rushed towards that direction. That direction, Chu Yang was rushing over with Mo Qingwu. From afar, he heard the sound of heaven and earth shattering. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat, and he still sped up. Suddenly, a white shadow that was hard to see with the naked eye came over. Before Chu Yang could react, the white shadow had already disappeared. Then, a powerful tornado swept over. The wind blew so hard that they couldn't even open their eyes. Their legs felt weak, and it seemed as if they were about to be swept up into the sky. Chu Yang shouted, and held Mo Qingwu tightly in his arms. Like 1,000 pounds falling, he fixed them on the ice field. With a whoosh, the tornado blew past, and formed a tornado behind the two of them. It went far away in a straight line. What's going on? Chu Yang opened his eyes, and spat out a mouthful of snow that was poured into his mouth by the tornado. He shook his head, and shook off the snow and ice on his head. Mo Qingwu obviously didn't know either. She shook her head blankly. The two of them didn't notice that in the pocket of Mo Qingwu's extremely fat raccoon fur coat, a small snow-white head cautiously poked out. Its eyes rolled around, and a snow-white tail came out from behind its head, standing upright and swaying. Then, with a whoosh sound, its small head shrank back into Mo Qingwu's pocket. Only a section of its tail was left outside like a flagpole. Then, a small and delicate white claw stretched out, and quietly pulled the tail inside. Regarding this, Mo Qingwu and Chu Yang were actually completely unaware. Mo Qingwu's raccoon fur blanket was specially prepared by Chu Yang. It wrapped Mo Qingwu's petite body inside, and then made a big bag for snacks. The two of them had never dreamed that such a small place would become the hiding place of a formidable spirit beast. In the pocket, the small head moved slightly and changed into a more comfortable position. It lay down and covered its body with its tail. This way, it was the same color as the raccoon fur coat. As long as this tail was not removed, no one would think that there was a spirit beast hidden underneath. The little thing breathed a sigh of relief and looked around with its rolling eyes. There was actually something very, very sweet right next to it. She tried to open the candy and put it into her mouth. Wow! It was too delicious. It was too delicious. Could this be heaven? The pure aura on Mo Ching-woo's body made it feel very comfortable. So, it couldn't help but close its eyes in satisfaction. Something was not right. How could this little girl gather spiritual energy on her body? And it was the purest kind. Waha, it was really too comfortable. This little spirit beast had recognized this place in such a short time, and wasn't willing to leave. It looked at the bag full of colorful candies. Humph, there would be so many good things to eat if I went back, not to mention that this little girl could gather spiritual energy. Wouldn't I have a tail if I could stay by her side and practice? Moreover, no one would be able to recognize my true value if I had a human as a cover. This was a good thing that could kill 80 birds with one stone. But, how could I stay by her side for a long time? The little thing's eyes were rolling around anxiously. This matter was somewhat difficult to handle. A thunderous sound came from midair. Everyone looked up, and was immediately dumbfounded. Especially Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu. They were even more dumbfounded. They saw that the single-horned dragon, which was still alive and powerful a moment ago, was now drooping down softly, and issuing a mournful cry from its mouth. Its tail was easily tied up by a white-robed man's hand. This white-robed man was standing high in the air. However, it seemed as if he was standing on the summit of a group of mountains. The ground under his feet was very solid. He gently shook his hand, and that formidable spirit beast, the single-horned dragon, was swung back and forth like a horsewhip. It seemed as if he was playing down the matter in an indifferent manner. The single-horned dragon issued a mournful whining sound. The white-robed man scolded it with a smile. Isn't it just a little bit of your blood essence? Look at how useless you are. The single-horned dragon whined twice, and whined twice. Then, it listlessly hung its head down. It had accepted its fate. Jun Shizhu's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. This man is so powerful. Is he a supreme-level expert? The white-robed man seemed to have finished dealing with it. He casually tossed the single-horned dragon, and it immediately soared into the sky. This toss had covered a distance of several thousand feet. I'll spare your life, the white-robed man indifferently said. Then, he suddenly raised his eyebrows and shouted, I'll speak. Spare its life. Could it be that you want to die, you bastard? His voice wasn't loud. In fact, the people present on the scene didn't feel anything. However, it flew towards the west like a cannonball. The short and stout man who was chasing after the single-horned dragon suddenly screamed. His body fell down from midair, and rolled on the ground again and again. It turned out that the white-robed man's words had turned into an extremely powerful spirit energy attack. It had flown for dozens of miles, and had suddenly exploded in the ears of this short and stout man. He had understood it, and had received an unprecedented shock. This kind of controlling ability was simply unimaginable. This short and stout man had been bleeding from his 7 orifices by the time he stood up. He looked very ferocious. Moreover, he looked even more ferocious with the big sarcoma on his head. The 2 people beside him were shocked. They hastily stepped forward. Master, what's wrong with you, Master? The short and stout man exposed an extremely frightened look in his eyes. His eyes flickered as he looked in the direction where the sound had come from. However, he didn't have the slightest desire to get his hands on the single-horned dragon anymore. Come here, the white-robed man coldly said. This voice had also passed through dozens of miles of space, and had arrived in front of the short and stout man. Then, the air in front of the short and stout man vibrated, and 2 words suddenly appeared out of thin air, come here. At this time, the voice transmitted from the empty space. It was the same two words, "Come here." It was full of authority that couldn't be refused. This was a kind of power that could dominate the world. The short and stout man's legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. He forcibly restrained himself, and said, "Come with me. Be careful. Don't speak carelessly." He muttered in his heart, "Motherfucker, it seems that I'm always encountering ghosts this time. Fuck. I haven't even met one in the upper three heavens. But I'm encountering one in the upper three heavens. What the fuck is this? Do I have any other choice than to admit my bad luck when encountering such a master?" He hung his head dejectedly, and led his two subordinates in the direction of the voice. The white-robed man who was rushing over from the north smiled bitterly. "I've really met a ghost. What should I do?" He was thinking when he heard a voice. "Why are you still standing there in a daze? You come here as well." The white-robed man smiled bitterly. He had no choice but to hurry over. A burst of wind and clouds surged in the south. A violent silhouette suddenly arrived from the horizon. It seemed as if the entire sky had collapsed along with his arrival. Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu looked at each other. They felt shocked in their hearts. These two people were already at the top of the pyramid in the upper three heavens. It could be said that there was no third person in the upper three heavens whose cultivation was higher than that of Duke Yu and Jun Shizhu. However, the white-robed man who had appeared first was far superior to the two of them. The cultivation of the violent silhouette that was about to arrive was perhaps on par with that of this white-robed man. The two of them looked at each other again, and saw that their eyes had calmed down instead. The matter had already reached this point. It wasn't a disaster if it was a blessing. But it couldn't be avoided if it was a disaster. "Do whatever you want." The man who had been chasing Mo Ching-woo from the south arrived here. He saw the white-robed man at first glance. One of them was standing high in the sky, and the other was standing a little lower. Their four eyes met. All the spirit energies in the air suddenly issued a dense collision sound from the sky the moment their four eyes met. Then, a black hole-like crack in the air spread down from the sky, and reached the ground between the two people. It divided the world into two parts. A crack of unknown depth suddenly appeared on the ground with a bang. It was 3 feet wide, and couldn't be sideways. A burst of cold wind blew out from this crack. It seemed as if it was leading straight to the netherworld. The two of them had only stared at each other. But it had produced such a powerful force. Chu Yang's heart jumped as he saw this. Monster. Truly a monster. Chu Yang looked at the expressions on the faces of Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu. And he was even more certain that these two people were supreme-level expert. These were the people who had stood at the peak of the Double Heavens continent since ancient times. Apart from the supreme-level experts, there wasn't any other level that could be so powerful. "What are you doing here?" the white-robed man faintly asked with a warm smile on his face. He still had his head lowered, and was looking at the people on the ground. It seemed as if a supreme king was overlooking all living beings. He seemed to be talking to the people on the ground. But he was actually asking that person high in the sky. The crack in the air had already disappeared. Following this sentence, a faint airflow slowly rose into the air. At the same time, a dense voice said, "What are you doing here?" Then, the voices suddenly staggered. It seemed as if countless people were speaking in an intricate and disorderly manner. "What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" Chapter 519. The man in white spoke alone, but it was as if the whole world was repeating his words. Everything was going along with him. Even the mountains were responding and echoing. His voice rumbled and rushed to the sky. The snowflakes in the sky stopped falling after he spoke. They just floated in the sky. Above, the strange old man laughed strangely and said, "Then why are you here?" His voice was normal, but it was condescending. One spoke first, and the other spoke later. But the two voices collided in the sky. With a dull thud, the snowflakes in the sky suddenly fell down with a swoosh. With a thud, a wall of snow fell on the ground. In this short period of time, a layer of snow had formed in the sky because of the heavy snowfall. Its weight also increased a lot. After the wall of snow fell, The snowflakes in the sky began to fall at a normal speed. The two people's bodies didn't shake at all. They were calm and relaxed. Apparently, they were evenly matched. One was higher than the other, and they were facing each other from a distance. I'm here to collect some essence blood of spirit beasts to make medicine. The man in white laughed softly and said, "It seems that after so many years, your cultivation didn't fall behind at all. It seems that we still have to fight for who is the best in the world for a few years." Best in the world? The old man in grey laughed and said, "If my meridians weren't damaged by that bastard tribulation sword master, I would have killed you with my palm. How would you have the chance to fight for the best in the world with me? What you're saying is simply bullshit." The man in white was not angry. With a humble and reasonable attitude, he scolded gently, "Back then, your meridians were damaged by him. Didn't I have my legs broken by him too? My meridians were cut off. There's only a difference of 1 year. Why do you have to bring out such old vinegar to talk about?" The two people didn't care about other people's feelings at all. They just chatted casually. Below, Chu Yang suddenly opened his eyes wide. He only felt that his ears were rumbling with thunder. The previous tribulation sword master. These two people were actually people who had fought with the previous master of Calamity Sword. Doesn't that mean these two old guys have lived for more than 10,000 years? What the fuck? What kind of old monster was this? Chu Yang immediately became vigilant. No wonder the sword spirit warned me. It seems that if I reveal the Calamity Sword, these two people might be able to tell that I'm the Calamity Sword master. Thinking of this, Chu Yang strictly ordered the sword spirit not to move and not to contact him. He also warned the Calamity Sword not to move and fall into a deep sleep. It was better to be safe than sorry, and these two were actually fighting for the title of world's #1. Didn't that mean, in the current heavenly layer, the cultivation of these two people was the most powerful? No one else could surpass these two people. How valiant. However, he hadn't expected that he would encounter such a person in the northern wasteland today. It was an extremely unexpected surprise. It wasn't just Chu Yang. Mo Qingwu didn't know what Tribulation Swordmaster was. Jun Shizhu, Duke Yu, Jiyu Duxing, and the other king-level experts were so startled that they opened their mouths wide. A few of them groaned in pain. He was someone who had fought with the master of Calamity Sword 10,000 years ago. "Oh my god," the grey-robed old man snorted and said, "It's all because that bastard suddenly disappeared. Otherwise, this old man would have looked for him to settle this account." The white-robed man chuckled. He shook his head and laughed in a low voice. "Ning Tianye, you're still boasting shamelessly. You're making this old man despise you." The grey-robed man angrily said, "Bu Liu Qing, don't you want to take revenge for that sword attack? Why are you pretending to be magnanimous? Do you think that I don't know your sinister, despicable, shameless, lowly, and filthy true face?" The white-robed man Bu Liu Qing elegantly shook his head. "Of course, I want to. But he's gone missing. Or, I should say that he's dead. Why do you keep talking about him every day since you can't find him? You're just making yourself angry. You can't do anything except make yourself angry. Ning Tianye, it's not that I want to criticize you. But you should learn from me. Your chest is too small." After saying that, he actually let out a sincere sigh. It seemed as if he felt pity for his old rival who had been entangled with him for more than 10,000 years. Bu Liu Qing had been entangled with him for more than 10,000 years. So, how could he not understand his old rival's temperament? He knew that his old rival would get angry if he said these words. So, he had to be prepared to find a place to fight with this old man. However, he hadn't expected that Ning Tianye would laugh mischievously and say, "Who cares if my chest is small or not? I'm not learning from you." Then, he sat down in the air. He raised his head and looked at the snowflakes in the sky. He said, "You should hurry up and finish your work. Then, you should leave quickly. This old man wants to bask in the sun here." Bu Liu Qing was startled. How did this old bastard suddenly change his temperament? This isn't like him. Bu Liu Qing was confused in an instant. "Bask in the sun? You've come to the northern wasteland for 3 days to bask in the sun. Only an old bastard like you can do this. This place is covered with dark clouds and heavy snow all year round. Where does the sun come from? This old bastard doesn't lie seriously. Bu Liu Qing was lost in his thoughts when he heard a snoring sound from afar. A big meatball was running over, panting for breath. He walked closer to take a look. Then, he realized that it was a short and fat man. His flat head was pressed against his neck. His big belly was trembling up and down. His two small and short legs were running in a crisscross pattern. He looked like a big watermelon with two chopsticks stuck under it. And a small melon was placed on top of it. As he walked closer, he could see that this person had a round face, a round nose, round eyes, and round mouth. The most bizarre thing was that there was actually a round lump on his round forehead. Senior. The short and fat man was running all the way. He didn't dare to use his spirit power as he approached. He was sweating profusely as he ran towards the white-robed man. He then said while panting, "I'm Xiao Chang Feng of the Xiao clan. This short and fat man has such an artistic and unrestrained name." Everyone almost spat out their rice when they heard this. However, they didn't dare to. Xiao Chang Feng of the Xiao clan. He is a member of the Xiao clan, one of the ruling clans of the Upper Three Heavens. The people of the big clans of the Upper Three Heavens came to the Upper Three Heavens like imperial envoys. Who would dare to offend them? The white-robed man looked at this short and fat man in astonishment. He shook his head for a long time. Then, he gently scolded, "Motherfucker, you've wasted such a beautiful name." Yes. Xiao Chang Feng's short and fat body bowed. He wiped the sweat on his face and said, "It's my fault. I shouldn't have wasted such a beautiful name. I'll report to the clan lord when I return to the clan. I'll change my name." "Change it to Fat Pig Xiao," Bu Liu Qing insipidly said. "Thank you for giving me this name, senior. I'll be called Fat Pig Xiao from today onward." Xiao Chang Feng excitedly turned his head and shouted, "Did you hear that? Senior has changed my name. Call me Fat Pig Xiao from now on. Do you understand?" This short and fat man had obviously heard the words of the white-robed man. He knew that this white-robed man was a supreme figure in the Upper Three Heavens. How could he dare to be disrespectful? Let's not talk about being ridiculed by the opposite party. Even if the opposite party forced him to eat shit, he would still happily eat it. He wouldn't dare to have the slightest hesitation. Everyone was dumbstruck. Is this a member of the ruling clan of the Upper Three Heavens? How can he be so spineless? Only Duke Yu stared at this Fat Pig Xiao with a complicated look in his eyes. This Fat Pig Xiao can be big or small. He's sinister and vicious. He immediately changed his attitude once he discovered that there's a super expert here. He didn't hesitate to lower his voice in order to save his life. However, one thing was certain. Everyone here would suffer under Fat Pig Xiao's evil hands if Bu Liu Qing were to leave this place now. They would be silenced by him. He would never allow these people to live and spread the word of his shameless groveling at this moment. Bu Liu Qing looked at him with disgust and said, "You wait on one side." Then, Bu Liu Qing turned his head, looked at Zhun Shizhu, and said with a good-natured smile, "Little girl, I know that you've just obtained a portion of Spirit Beast's blood essence. And, this old man needs a large amount of Spirit Beast's blood essence to refine medicine. I wonder if you can part with it. Rest assured, this old man won't treat you unfairly." Zhun Shizhu hesitated for a while. She felt conflicted in her heart. She tossed and turned for a long time. Then, she finally made up her mind. She raised her head, and said, "Senior is very resourceful. So, you must have seen that this junior has reached a bottleneck. And, I need the Spirit Beast's blood essence to break through. I'm drooling over the conditions that Senior has promised me, but it's somewhat difficult for me to accept." Chu Yang couldn't help but smack his lips. This woman is very strong. Even a supreme-level expert wants something from her. But, she refuses without any hesitation. Bu Liu Qing hadn't expected that Zhun Shizhu would refuse. He had thought that he would receive the Spirit Beast's blood essence the moment he had spoken those words. So, he had been waiting, and considering what to give to the other party as compensation. However, He hadn't expected that the other party would throw such a stiff sentence at him. "Do you mean, to refuse me?" Bu Liu Qing wrinkled his brows. His complexion slightly changed. He couldn't believe that he had asked this question. Jun Shizhu nodded and said, "Yes, this junior refuses." She smiled and said, "This junior doesn't know why so many spirit beasts have suddenly appeared in the northern wilderness. But, I presume that it must be related to you, senior. Senior needs the blood essence of spirit beasts. And, these spirit beasts have appeared." Bu Liu Qing nodded slightly. His eyes were half closed as he said, "Yes. This junior also doesn't know what the consequences will be if I refuse senior." Jun Shizhu raised her head, and resolutely said, "I also know that these spirit beasts have been lured out by senior. But, I'm afraid that I won't be able to advance for the rest of my life if I miss this opportunity." She insipidly said, "Please understand, senior." Dooku faintly smiled. He took a step forward, and stood side by side with her. His sharp eyes looked at Bu Liu Qing in the sky. However, there wasn't even the slightest trace of fear on his face. There was a huge difference between their strengths. But, the imposing aura that Dooku was displaying at this moment could faintly rival Bu Liu Qing's. "I'm inferior to you. You're a supreme level expert. But, I won't hesitate to fight you if you want to fight." Chapter 520. Jun Shizhu was startled. She shouted, "Little you, go back." Dooku faintly smiled, but didn't speak anything. His blue robe fluttered as he stood in front of her. "Fat pig Xiao, no," Xiao Chang Feng angrily said, "Bullshit. Senior wants your spirit beast's blood because he thinks highly of you. He's giving you face. Stinky woman, you don't know how to appreciate favors." He took a step forward, and was about to attack. Dooku sneered. He took a step forward, and insipidly said, "You fat pig. I can guarantee that you'll die in front of us if you dare to take one more step forward." Xiao Chang Feng was startled. He looked at Dooku with a gloomy and cold gaze. He was just about to scold Dooku when a strong energy suddenly descended from the sky. It grabbed Xiao Chang Feng's neck and threw him out. Along the way, Xiao Chang Feng continuously received hundreds of slaps. At that time, Xiao Chang Feng's originally pig-like head became even more similar to a pig's head. He only heard Bu Liu Qing angrily say, "How can this old man's business be managed by a shameless, despicable and shameless dwarf like you? I'll pull out your tongue if you dare to say one more word." Xiao Chang Feng immediately kept quiet out of fear. He stood there, and lowered his head. His eyes flashed with a vicious light, but he didn't dare to let anyone see it. A wild laughter came from the sky. "Bu Liu Qing, you've grown up. There are so many spirit beasts here. You could have just grabbed a few of them. But, you're snatching the things of a little girl. Don't you know shame?" Bu Liu Qing coldly snorted. He didn't reply. He only looked at Jun Shizhu and Dooku. Both of them didn't have any fear on their faces. Their bodies were straight, and they didn't have the slightest bit of timidity. "Fine." Bu Liu Qing coldly snorted and said, "I won't force you if that's the case. But, I don't want others to say that I'm bullying the weak. It won't look good on my face." He turned around to leave after he had finished speaking. After all, it would have been a big loss of face if he'd been rejected despite his status. Bu Liu Qing didn't want to stay here any longer. Suddenly, a burst of energy vibrated in the air. Another white-clothed man floated over. His white shadow appeared. He had already arrived on the scene. He elegantly bowed with his hands clasped in front. "I've been summoned by Senior. Greetings to Senior Bu. Greetings to Senior Ning." Bu Liu Qing snorted. Then, he rolled his eyes and said, "Do you law enforcement officers also need spirit beasts? Why are you here?" The man in white smiled and said, "That's not it. It's just that this Brother Xiao violated the rules set by the enforcers and came to the upper three heavens for his own selfish reasons. I had no choice but to come and take a look." He paused for a while before he continued, "As for the spirit beasts, I don't dare to touch them." Bu Liu Qing snorted. He glared at Xiao Changfeng and said, "This fatty is quite charming. He actually attracted the law enforcers of the heaven to follow him. Xiao Changfeng had long been silent like a cicada in winter, cold sweat flowing down his back. Even he himself didn't know that a heaven layer enforcer had followed him down the stairs. At this time, Mo Qingwu was hiding behind Chu Yang. She saw that Xiao Changfeng was angry, but didn't dare to say anything. Moreover, he had lowered his head. So, he looked even more like a rubber ball. She immediately felt that it was funny. So, she moved close to Chu Yang's ear and said, "Elder brother Chu Yang, that short fatty is really fun to play with. Hee hee." Her voice was very soft. So, Chu Yang could only vaguely hear it. However, Xiao Changfeng had a high cultivation level. He heard it clearly. His face immediately turned angry. He looked at Mo Qingwu with a cold and sinister gaze. He thought to himself, "Wait until these two people leave. I'll teach you a lesson." The little thing in Mo Qingwu's pocket also heard it when she spoke. It couldn't help but be curious. So, it stuck out half of its head from the pocket. It wanted to sneak a look at that short fatty. Xiao Changfeng glanced over, and immediately saw the small spirit beast's head in Mo Qingwu's pocket. His eyes immediately lit up. Could it be Wind Fox? Wouldn't my purpose of coming down here be achieved if I get this thing? He rolled his eyes. Then, he lowered his head. "You can go now." Bu Liuqing looked at Xiao Changfeng and said coldly, "Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. Get lost." Xiao Changfeng's fat body trembled. He said, "This junior will follow senior's orders. I won't dare to act recklessly." He rolled his eyes and said, "It's just that this little girl is a person that my clan has issued strict orders to arrest. This junior wants to take her away. I ask senior to help me." He pointed at Mo Qingwu as he said this. Chu Yang was furious. He took a step forward. But, he didn't get enough time to speak. He saw Bu Liuqing frown and look at Xiao Changfeng. "Your clan ordered you to come down here and capture this little girl?" "Yes." Xiao Changfeng said respectfully, "I ask senior to help this junior this time on account of your friendship with my ancestor, Xiao Chenyu." The Xiao Chenyu he was talking about was the founder of one of the great clans, the Xiao clan. He had a friendship with Bu Liuqing in those days. However, he disappeared not long after. Bu Liuqing suddenly heard the name of his old friend from 10,000 years ago. He couldn't help but feel frustrated. It seemed as if the past 10,000 years were all in front of him. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, "Morning rain and evening sun don't regret the sword. Autumn and spring waves meet the wind. Haha, 10,000 years. All right, this old man will help you." Xiao Changfeng couldn't help but feel ecstatic in his heart. He said, "Thank you very much, senior." Bu Liuqing coldly snorted and said, "What you want is the wind fox in her pocket, right? Haha. But, I'll help you because you mentioned a name from 10,000 years ago. And, it touched my state of mind. But, I'll help you, but that doesn't mean that I won't punish you. If everyone in the world thinks that I, Bu Liuqing, am a fool like you, wouldn't that make this old man lose face?" He angrily snorted as he said this. This snort was like a huge hammer that came down from the sky. Xiao Changfeng's left shoulder suddenly got smashed into pieces. He screamed miserably. His complexion turned deathly pale. He trembled as he said, "Thank you very much for your lesson, senior." "Go," Bu Liuqing coldly said. Xiao Changfeng turned his head and straightened his body. His arm had just been crippled. But, he still didn't put these mere king-level experts in his eyes since he was a monarch-level expert. Clang clang clang. Jiu Du Xing, Luo Ku Di, and Ji Mo unsheathed their swords at the same time. The snow-filled sky suddenly became bleak and desolate. A heavy and vigorous aura suddenly erupted. Dong Wu Shong slowly pulled out his black saber. Jiu Du Xing raised his eyebrows. His eyebrows were like swords. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. His body was as straight as a sword. He and his sword seemed to have turned into an inseparable whole at this moment. He emitted a cold murderous aura as he locked onto Xiao Changfeng. Dong Wu Shong raised his eyebrows. It was as if two treasured sabers had been unsheathed at the same time. His gaze was like two flying sabers that flew horizontally and horizontally. His entire body seemed to have turned into a big saber that wanted to cut through the world. His body slightly bent forward like a leopard that was about to hunt its prey. He locked onto Xiao Changfeng. Chu Yang took a step forward and stood in front of Mo Qingwu. He put his hands behind his back and proudly looked at Xiao Changfeng. The sword spirit had received Chu Yang's instructions. He was already fully concentrated. Take over Chu Yang's body. I must use all 10 moves of the Calamity Sword within one strike to eliminate this nauseating short and fat man. I won't hesitate even if I have to expose my identity in front of these two supreme-level expert. Bu Liu Qing exclaimed in surprise. Then, he muttered, 5 top-notch constitutions. They have guts and courage. What a pity. It was obvious that Chu Yang and the other 4 weren't a match for Xiao Changfeng in his eyes. However, he had already made a promise. So, he wouldn't change his mind. Xiao Changfeng ferociously roared, "Go." The 3 of them pounced forward at the same time. "Go fuck your mother." A voice suddenly came down. Immediately after, a voice from high up in the sky shouted, "This fat pig. Do you dare to touch a finger of that little girl's? Why don't you try?" However, this voice was a little too late. Xiao Changfeng's fat body had already pounced forward. He couldn't take it back even if he wanted to. Anyone in his place wouldn't have the slightest scruple, because Bu Liu Qing had spoken. Moreover, he had agreed. So, who would dare to stop him? Therefore, Xiao Changfeng hadn't thought that this matter could still cause problems. He obviously knew that Ning Tianye was also here. However, Bu Liu Qing had spoken. Could it be that Ning Tianye wouldn't give him face? This was something that had to be given. He would have given it if he were in Bu Liu Qing's place. Therefore, he nimbly pounced forward. He carried the momentum of a thunderbolt. Therefore, it was a tragedy for him. He hadn't thought that the current Ning Tianye wouldn't care about Bu Liu Qing's face. Ning Tianye had been waiting in the sky. He hadn't come down to reveal his true purpose. He clearly knew the preciousness of this heavenly yin body and innate spirit meridians. He was afraid that Bu Liu Qing would discover Mo Qingwu's aptitude if he exposed his purpose. Then, Bu Liu Qing would snatch her away from him. Both of them had lived for so long. However, they had always adhered to the principle of better to have nothing than to have something shoddy. So, neither of them had accepted any disciple. However, both of them had a knot in their hearts. Don't tell me that there's no inheritance for these supreme skills. Will these earth-shattering martial arts become a legend when I leave this world one day? Ning Tianye put himself in Bu Liu Qing's shoes. He knew that he would have snatched her away if he were Bu Liu Qing. Therefore, he hadn't acted blindly without thinking. As long as Bu Liu Qing left, everything would be fine. However, he hadn't expected that Bu Liu Qing would leave after losing a lot of face. This damn fatty had made such a move. He had set his sights on Mo Qingwu. Ning Tianye was so angry that his stomach was about to burst. If human flesh could be eaten, he would have already chewed and swallowed this fatty long ago. Fuck. This wretched and short fatty is a damned shit stirrer. How could Ning Tianye remain calm when he saw this fatty pouncing towards his disciple? However, his shout didn't have any effect on him. Ning Tianye's anger rose from the bottom of his heart. Then, he jumped down. Xiao Changfeng was about to catch Mo Qingwu when Jiu Duxing and the others arrived on their flying swords. Xiao Changfeng's body suddenly disappeared. Looking over in the blink of an eye, he saw that Xiao Changfeng was already lifted up in midair by an old man wearing a grey robe with one hand, while the other hand slapped him thrice. Is this old man's words so unreliable? Chapter 521. Xiao Changfeng felt dizzy and disoriented. His heart and guts had been torn apart. His entire body had turned ice cold. How did I manage to get rid of Bu Liu Qing with great difficulty? But, Ning Tianye is still thinking about me. I'm done for, senior, please spare my life. Xiao Changfeng was about to beg for mercy. But, Ning Tianye had already thrown him up. He then grabbed Xiao Changfeng's ankle with one hand, and smashed him on a big rock like a meteor hammer. He then angrily cursed, "Do you think that this old man won't dare to touch you because you have Bu Liu Qing's support?" Xiao Changfeng only had time to say half a sentence. "Senior, please consider my Xiao clan," before he was already swung onto the big rock. The second half of his sentence was smashed away along with the flesh and blood of his entire body. "Do I have to touch you? Surnamed Xiao? So what if his surname is Xiao? Even if you are a bastard from one of the ruling clans of the upper three heavens, this old man will still smash you." Memory's old man Ning Tianye cursed as he swung. By the third time, Xiao Changfeng's fat body had already turned into a pile of minced meat. There was only a smelly foot left in Ning Tianya's hand. Ning Tianya threw out the smelly foot with a loud bang. His anger hadn't subsided yet. "You actually dare to threaten me with the big clans? This world is crazy." Then, Ning Tianye stretched out his hands and roared furiously, "Die!" Two sharp bursts of energy exploded. The remaining two experts of the Xiao clan did not make a sound. They did not even have the time to beg for mercy. With a bang, their bodies exploded like firecrackers. Bu Liu Qing's pupils shrank. This Ning Tianye often yells and screams. But he has never been this angry. Why? Seeing that Ning Tianye's body had unexpectedly blocked in front of that little girl again, he couldn't help but think, could it be related to this little girl? Ning Tianye waved his hand, and said to that heavenly layer law enforcer, "Well, there's nothing for you to do. The short and fat man you were in charge of supervising is already dead. You can go back to the upper three heavens." He shouted arrogantly as if he was the law enforcer's superior. "Yes, Junior will take his leave." The man in white smiled bitterly, bowed to both of them, and turned to leave. He thought to himself that the Xiao clan had suffered a loss this time. Xiao Changfeng had died in the hands of Ning Tianye, and the Xiao clan probably wouldn't even dare to mention it. They could only pinch their noses and admit it. If they were to deal with Ning Tianye. Cough cough, the white-robed man thought for a while. It seemed that the Xiao clan still did not possess such strength now. Unless they invited the few old ancestors to come out and besiege him. It seemed that the chances of victory were not great. Forget it, what does this have to do with me? I just have to bring the news back and be done with it. The man in white left. Ning Tianye stood upright in front of Mo Qingwu. He ignored the thanks of Jiu Duxing and the others, and said, "You guys should also leave." He was talking to Jun Shizhu and Duke Yu. Then, he added, "Little girl, your surname is Jun, right?" Jun Shizhu replied, "Yes. I don't know who Senior is." "Yes, you are a descendant of the Jun family." "Yes, yes." Ning Tianya waved his hand. Let's go, let's go. If you have time to see that old but immortal ancestor of yours, tell him that Ning Tianya wants to have a drink with him." Jun Shizhu remained silent for a while. She wanted to say, "I don't know where that legendary ancestor is now. Moreover, the Jun clan has long been gone." However, she swallowed this thought back to her mind. However, it would seem that she was asking for help if she had said so. Jun Shizhu didn't like this feeling. Therefore, she bowed respectfully and said, "This junior will take her leave in that case. I will certainly pass on your message if I see the old ancestor." She nodded, and bid farewell to Chu Yang. Then, she and Duke Yu led the dark bamboo and left with a whistling sound. "You still haven't left." Ning Tianya had steeled his heart to remove all obstacles. So, he said to the empty Bu Liu Qing, go quickly, go quickly. I will come and find you for a fight in a few days." Bu Liu Qing snorted. He looked at Ning Tianya with great interest and said, "Why would I stay for a few days? If you want to fight, we can do it now. How about, we go to the Wind and Thunder platform and have a big fight now?" "I don't have time right now," Ning Tianya replied without any trace of politeness. "You go quickly." He kept urging Bu Liu Qing to leave. However, the more he urged Bu Liu Qing, the more doubtful Bu Liu Qing became. So, Bu Liu Qing didn't leave and said, "You don't have time? How come I don't see you busy? I have something to do." Ning Tianya roared. Bu Liu Qing stroked his smooth chin. There was a thought-provoking look in his eyes as he said, "Old Ning, you haven't taken a fancy to these 5 youngsters, have you? To be honest, these 5 little guys have good constitution. Especially the one beside you who uses a saber, and the other one who uses a sword. They are all heaven-sent geniuses. You want to accept disciples?" The hearts of Jiu Du Xing and the others tightened when they heard this. What if a supreme-level expert accepts them as disciples? Luo Kudi and Ji Mo's eyes lit up. They were eager to give it a try. However, Jiu Du Xing and Dong Wushong looked at each other, and saw the firmness in each other's eyes. Nonsense. Ning Tianya's heart skipped a beat as he said, "I don't fancy these 5 little guys." "Haha, these 2 little guys won't go with you even if you fancy them," Bu Liu Qing mischievously laughed, "unless you want the other 2 who use swords." Ning Tianya was startled. He had heard the hidden meaning in Bu Liu Qing's words. He turned his head to look at Jiu Du Xing and Dong Wushong, and sized them up. Then, he let out a long sigh and said, "Yes, these 2 won't go with anyone." On the other side, Chu Yang was somewhat puzzled. He asked, "Why does Senior say so?" Chu Yang was obviously reluctant to part with his brothers. But, he also knew that this was a great fortune. Jiu Du Xing and the others' future achievements would be limitless if they were accepted as disciples by the 2 supreme-level experts. Moreover, the time it would take would be shortened by a lot. Ning Tianya looked at Chu Yang from the corner of his eyes and said, "You obviously can't see it with your little eyesight. One of these 2 little guys has sword bones all over his body, and the other has saber blood all over his body. They aren't heaven-sent geniuses with special constitutions. But, they already have the embryonic form of a great master with a saber and a sword. They will only cripple themselves if they follow us and practice our martial arts." He insipidly said, "People like them can only fight in the Jianghu with a saber and a sword. They can only walk on the path of a great master as long as they don't die in the end." Bu Liu Qing chuckled in the sky. "There have been many such people since ancient times. But, there are very few who can truly become a great master without dying. That's because this is a path full of thorns. Every step is filled with murderous intent. It's really a path of death. Embryonic form of a great master." Chu Yang's eyes flashed. He looked at his 2 brothers, and couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in his heart. As for the other 2, they're indifferent. Ning Tianya looked at Luo Kudi and Ji Guo from the corner of his eyes. These 2 are glib-tongued and slippery. They're slippery and slippery. They're 2 big slippery fellows. They exude a sense of mischievousness from head to toe. Even a supreme-level expert would be angered to death by them sooner or later if they were accepted as disciples. Bu Liu Qing laughed out loud in the sky. He agreed and said, "Yes. Moreover, these 2 guys' aptitudes aren't very good. Their ruthlessness is somewhat fixed. They can't be changed if they don't work hard. They're indeed not good material to be disciples." Luo Kudi and Ji Mo's faces darkened. They felt indignant in their hearts. Are the 2 of us so unbearable? Fuck, we can't be angered to death by us. We can't beat you 2. If we could beat you, we would have beaten you 2 old bastards to death right here, and you're still talking about angering us to death. How slow would that be? Their roots are somewhat fixed. They can't be changed if they don't work hard. We must change it. The reverence in their hearts towards the supreme-level experts suddenly vanished like smoke in thin air as they thought of this. They straightened their backs, straightened their necks, and raised their heads. However, they tilted their heads and looked to one side. An untamed feeling rose in their hearts. "You said that the 2 of us were unbearable. We'll show you what we can do. Fuck. We must let the world know that the supreme-level experts can also be wrong. 2 old bastards. Fuck. Bah." Bu Liu Qing and Ning Tianya looked at each other. Chu Yang pondered for a moment. Then, he lowered his head. He didn't want Luo Kudi and Ji Mo to see the gratitude in his eyes. He was grateful to Ning Tianya and Bu Liu Qing. Luo Kudi, Ji Mo, and Miao Biu Tong had always been Chu Yang's biggest worry. These 3 people's roots were in the upper echelons. However, they were definitely not top-notch. However, Dongwu Shong and Jiyu Duxing had indisputable top-notch aptitude. The brothers seemed to be on par with each other now. However, the gap between them wasn't big. Once they reached a higher level, these three people would definitely be pulled further and further away from each other. This was something that no one could help with. Even if Chu Yang used elixirs to continuously improve, it would be impossible for him to catch up with the overall progress. If he used too many elixirs, it would be completely harmful to them. Moreover, Miao Biyu Tong was a little stronger. However, Luo Kudi and Ji Mo were born lazy. Moreover, they belonged to the type of people who didn't have any goals in life. They were the type of people who would just muddle along and wait for death. Chu Yang had always wanted to change them. However, he didn't know where to start. Today, the two supreme-level experts had unintentionally shaped the direction of their life's effort. They had changed them from the root. Although it was just 2 short sentences, the effect of these 2 sentences was unparalleled. The words were the same. However, the effect would be completely different if they were spoken by different people. If Xie Danqiong and Ao Xieyun had said the words of Ning Tianya and Biyu Liu Qing, Jimo and Luo Kudi would have fought them to the death. Because this was the contempt of jealousy. If Chu Yang had said it, the two of them would have had a grudge in their hearts. Are you saying that the two of us aren't compatible? Therefore, Chu Yang had never said it. However, when it came from Ning Tianya and Biyu Liu Qing's mouths, it was a kind of final decision. This had instead aroused the fighting spirit of Luo Kudi and Jimo. However, Ning Tianya and Biyu Liu Qing were now looking at Chu Yang. Both of them shook their heads. There was some confusion in their eyes. This was because they couldn't see through this youngster's physique. It was obviously a very trashy route. However, there was too much uncertainty. What was going on? However, Biyu Liu Qing looked away after a glance. He smiled and said, Ning Tianya, move aside. Let me look at the little girl behind you. Ning Tianya jumped up as if he had been stung by a scorpion. Why? He was angry and anxious. Motherfucker, I knew that this bastard would stay here and not leave. It felt wrong. Today, I had a headache for the whole day. My temples have been throbbing in pain since the early hours of the morning. It's extremely uncomfortable. I got up early in the morning and went to the hospital for a checkup. They said that I was too tired and had a slight migraine. However, it doesn't matter. I'll be fine after some rest. They told me not to panic. The doctor asked me, did you stay up all night yesterday? I said, I didn't stay up all night yesterday. However, I've been staying up all night for more than 3 years. The doctor was startled and said, are you a god? You're still alive after staying up all night for 3 years. Your headache hasn't killed you yet. I was immediately speechless. This guy is too ignorant. Let's take a look. Let's not talk about me staying up all night for 3 years. There are also many people who have stayed up all night for more than 10 years. I'll go out and stroll. I'll find a high place. I'll go to the ends of the earth. There's no wind today. It's a rare good weather. Chapter 522. Ning Tianya was very depressed. He had been hoping that Biyu Liu Qing would leave quickly. But the opposite party was here to talk nonsense with him. After all, both sides had been friends for thousands of years. How could he ignore the opposite party's words? He said a few words, and also gave these little guys some pointers. It could be seen that these people were very concerned about his little disciple. Ning Tianya admired them very much. But Biyu Liu Qing suddenly said that he wanted to see his little disciple. How could that be? Didn't he see that he had been blocking the little girl? Even when the little girl came out of curiosity, he had also blocked her without leaving a trace. Why? Wasn't it because he didn't want Biyu Liu Qing to see her? You've worked so hard for so long, and you want to see her? Fuck, you want to see her just by touching her lips. How could it be so easy? What if you can't take it out after seeing it? I firmly refuse. Biyu Liu Qing's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile. He had deliberately led the topic to the matter of accepting a disciple. He wanted to see this old guy's reaction. Sure enough, this old guy immediately became nervous. Humph, what else could it be if he didn't fancy that little girl? But, what's so good about this little girl? She's worth this old guy's painstaking effort for? Why can't I see it? Bu Liu Qing was curious. I must see her. I won't snatch your disciple. What's there to be afraid of? Bu Liu Qing said unhappily. He sighed and said, only our disciples will continue the dispute between us after we leave this world. It's just like how the disciples of Chen Feng and Liu Yun compete for the reputation of their sects. How can I feel at ease accepting a disciple if I don't take a look at your disciple? This. Ning Tianye was in a dilemma. He was conflicted for a long time. Then, he said, you really won't snatch her from me? Bu Liu Qing was displeased. He said, you old thing, you are really narrow-minded. I, Bu Liu Qing, am a reputable person in this heavenly layer. How can I do such a tasteless thing like snatching a disciple from someone else? Chu Yang was worried and happy at the same time. So, this supreme martial artist has taken a fancy to Mo Qing Wu. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to see little Wu for a long time if he were to take her away. But, he was happy that Mo Qing Wu would be able to reach the heavens in a single bound. At this time, Ning Tianye finally moved his body unwillingly, and revealed the small body that had been blocking behind him all along. He still didn't feel at ease as he said, didn't we agree that you won't snatch it from me? Bu Liu Qing nodded indifferently. Yes, I won't follow you. Hey! Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and two beams of white light shot out from his eyes. He exclaimed softly, ice skin jade bone? With a shua sound, he descended from the sky. It turned out that Mo Qing Wu had heard these two people arguing over her. So, she couldn't help but tightly grab Chu Yang's lapel with her small hand. Because of this grab, a small part of her snow-white wrist was exposed. At this moment, Bu Liu Qing's gaze landed on this wrist. A tremor ran through the air. Ning Tianye's complexion changed. He took 2 steps forward, and warned, you said that you won't snatch it from me. Bu Liu Qing's eyes roamed around Mo Qing Wu's body. Then, he unconsciously said, are you kidding me? It's not only ice skin jade bone, but also heavenly yin body. Hiss. It's actually innate spirit meridians. Bu Liu Qing finally discovered something when he sensed the changes in the spirit energy around Mo Qing Wu's body. He gasped with a hiss sound, and was completely stunned. After a long time, Bu Liu Qing suddenly raised his head, and burst into loud laughter. No wonder that old bastard Ning Tianye hid it from me. It turns out that it's such a treasure. Such a treasure. You, Ning Tianye, want to quietly take it for yourself? How can it be so cheap? You, what are you laughing at? Ning Tianye looked at him vigilantly. He clenched his teeth and said, old bastard, you said that you won't snatch it from me. I'll definitely take this disciple. Bu Liu Qing's eyes sparkled as he said in a resolute and decisive manner. Then, he said in a soft voice, little girl, can you worship me as your master? Your master is very powerful. He's number 1 in the world. If you worship me as your master, the title of number 1 in the world will be yours sooner or later. Ning Tianye almost vomited blood. He angrily said, Bu Liu Qing, don't tell me that you're talking nonsense. He fiercely glared at him. His anger surged like a mountain. You said that you won't snatch it from me. Bu Liu Qing rolled his eyes and said, do you believe what I said? Ning Tianye staggered in anger. He said as if he wanted to vomit blood, you are shameless. Bu Liu Qing, how can you be so shameless? Bu Liu Qing rubbed his hands. He felt somewhat embarrassed and said, old Ning, you can't blame me for this. How could I know that the person you're looking for has ice skin jade bone? Moreover, she has heavenly yin body and is blessed by the heavens. Moreover, she has innate spirit meridians and immortal physique. I said that I won't snatch it from you. But, am I still human if I don't snatch it from you when I meet such a rare talent? Ning Tianye's entire body trembled with anger. You say it yourself, how shameless are your words? Bu Liu Qing gently and elegantly said, old Ning, don't get angry. We're both over 10,000 years old. It's not good to get angry. It's harmful to the body. So, Tell me what conditions you want to give me this disciple. I don't want any conditions. Ning Tianye roared. I'll give you the 10,000-year-old snow lotus. I'll also give you the heavenly weapon and the mysterious soul. I'll also give you the sky-green mushroom. How about it? Bu Liuqing said with a smile. Those things, you can keep them and take them to your grave. Ning Tianye burst into anger. Can you snatch my disciple? I admit that you're number one in the world. Is that good enough? Bu Liuqing said, I'll make an announcement in the upper three heavens tomorrow. I'll say that you're the number one expert in the world. And I, Bu Liuqing, was forced to flee in embarrassment by you. Is that good enough? Bu Liuqing sincerely said, Old Ning, I'm sincere. I'm sincere. I don't even care about my reputation. I don't even care about my face. The sacrifice I'm making isn't small. Ning Tianye spat out a mouthful of saliva. His face and neck turned red. What reputation and face do you still have? You went back on your words a moment ago. And you're still boasting about your reputation and face. He gasped for breath and loudly said, I used to think that you were a big shot. But it seems that I was gravely mistaken. I was blind. Bu Liuqing's reputation and face added together can't even compare to a single hair on my feet. Bu Liuqing's complexion gradually changed. He coldly said, Old Ning, give me a straightforward answer. Will you give me this disciple or not? What will it take for you to give her up? Ning Tianye resolutely said, I won't give her up even if you twist my head off. You won't give her up? Bu Liuqing's eyes became more and more dangerous. I won't give her up no matter what. Ning Tianye panted. You and I will be irreconcilable if you don't give her up today. Bu Liuqing was somewhat anxious. When have you ever been irreconcilable with me? Ning Tianye snorted. He disdainfully said, How come I don't know about it? Chu Yang and the others watched these two supreme experts quarrel in front of them. They were somewhat dumbfounded. Chu Yang was the first to recover. He moved close to Mo Qingwu's ear and said, These two want to accept you as their disciple. Mo Qingwu pitifully whispered, But I don't want to be their disciple. I don't want to leave you. Elder brother Chu Yang, Mo Qingwu's voice was very soft. But what kind of cultivation did these two supreme experts have? How could they not hear her? Both of them turned their heads and looked at the little girl. Chu Yang's purpose was obviously to maximize the benefits. So, he obviously didn't say anything when he saw that these two old guys had heard her. He just stood aside with a smile. Let's fight. The more we fight, the more benefits the little girl will get. The little girl's lips were pouting and flattening. Her eyes were a little red. She looked at these two supreme experts with resentment. She pouted when she saw them looking at her. She snorted and turned her head away. Then, she stuffed her little head into Chu Yang's bosom. Ning Tianye was somewhat petrified. Did I hear it wrong? The two of us are almost fighting here. So, the little girl doesn't want to be his disciple? Ha ha ha. Bu Liuqing finally held his belly and laughed. I thought that you, old Ning, had already taken care of this little girl. So, I wasted my breath here. But, you didn't succeed after all this time. That's good. Very good. Good my ass. Ning Tianye's breathing was heavy. Then, he turned his face and said with a benevolent look, Little girl, you see, I can help you fulfill all your wishes as long as you acknowledge me as your master. Moreover, look at that man. He looks like a human. But, he eats people without spitting out their bones. He's too scary. You won't have a good life if you become his disciple. Ning Tianye was trying to tempt and scare her. He was resorting to every possible means. Being with elder brother Chu Yang is my wish. The little girl shook her head vigorously. She grabbed Chu Yang's lapel with all her might. My wish has been fulfilled. I don't need your help anymore. Bu Liuqing also came over. He thought for a long time. Then, he suddenly took out something from his bosom. He smiled kindly. Come, little girl. This is for you. Ha ha. It's fun, right? Tell me, what's your name? My name is Mo Qingwu. Mo Qingwu shrank back in fear. She curiously looked at the little person in his palm. It was made entirely out of purple crystal essence. It was shining brightly. It seemed very fun. Mo Qingwu? Good name. Bu Liuqing praised her non-stop. He demonstrated, you see, this little person fights by itself when you move like this. And, it somersaults when you move like this. And, it moves like this. Mo Qingwu looked curiously. Her eyes became brighter and brighter. Wow. It's really fun. Ning Tianye immediately became anxious. He searched his body with both hands. But, he couldn't find anything. He was away from home. He didn't even bring a weapon with him. So, why would he bring such a small toy to coax a child? He became anxious when he saw that Bu Liuqing had closed the relationship with the little girl in an instant. Bu Liuqing was very proud of himself. He said, Mo Qingwu. I'll call you Little Wu, okay? Okay. Mo Qingwu nodded. She fiddled with the purple crystal little person in her palm. She said without raising her head, that's what my mother calls me. Ah. Mother. Bu Liuqing looked a little embarrassed. Then, he said softly, look at this thing. Isn't it fun? I have a lot of it as long as you come back with me. He went out for a stroll. His head hurt more and more. He had no choice but to do a head massage. He felt a little better. He quickly came back to write this chapter. Hey, the quality is really good. It's written very well. I'll sleep early tonight to restore my energy. I can finally take the medicine now. I didn't dare to take the medicine that I brought back because it has a sleeping effect. It's said that the effect is quite strong. I've finished writing now. Although it's only 2 chapters, it's enough to account for everyone. I'm relieved. I can finally take the medicine and sleep. Hey. To celebrate being able to sleep early, I'm begging for a monthly vote. I didn't explode today. If you want to vote, vote. If you don't want to vote, I won't force you. Anyway, thank you. Chapter 523. It must have been hard on him. In order to seduce this piggy brother, he actually learned how to coax children. For these 10,000-years-old monsters, this was quite difficult. No way. Ning Tianya rushed up with a pale face. He pushed Bu Liuqing without any hesitation and squatted down. Come with me. There are more fun things at my place, but I don't want to go anywhere. Mo Qingwu said timidly. She reluctantly handed the little purple crystal figure back to Bu Liuqing. I'll give it to you. Bu Liuqing said amiably, keep it. Hehe, I still have a lot of them. Really? Mo Qingwu blinked and asked. Of course. Bu Liuqing said seriously. He was secretly proud. It seemed that he had already gotten half of this disciple. Mo Qingwu happily put the little purple crystal figure into her pocket. Ah. What is this? Suddenly, Mo Qingwu's body trembled and she let out a shriek, as if she had received a great shock. Then, she fished out a snow-white, furry little fox from her pocket. This little fox was only the size of a palm. It squatted on Mo Qingwu's hand obediently and wriggled slowly. Its whole body was snow-white. Only its 2 shiny black eyes were looking up at Mo Qingwu. It squeaked twice and looked very pitiful. Wow, what a cute little thing. Mo Qingwu was overjoyed. She liked this little thing at first sight. She held it in one hand and raised it in front of her eyes. So cute. Little thing, what's your name? As she said, she reached out her other hand to stroke it. The little thing timidly reached out a snow-white front paw and actually shook her hand gently. Then, it retracted its paw and squeaked shyly. Mo Qingwu was very happy. She said, little thing, where did you come from? Why are you in my pocket? The little thing obviously didn't understand her words. It squeaked and looked at her innocently. Mo Qingwu was instantly defeated by such a gaze. She held it lovingly and said, follow me from now on, okay? Little guy, I'll give you a name. Let's call you Xiao Shui, okay? The little fellow tilted its head and looked at Mo Qingwu. It moved its body and crawled a step on Mo Qingwu's hand. It squeaked and then stretched its limbs and lay down comfortably on her hand. It was as if he had already acknowledged this name. Chu Yang's eyes also lit up. Jiu Du Xing and the others were also flabbergasted. This little thing doesn't seem to have any attack power, but it's also very smart and cute. Moreover, it's so clean. But how did it suddenly run into Mo Qingwu's pocket? Ning Tianya and Bu Liu Qing glanced at each other. The wind fox is a spirit beast. It has reverted to its most primitive state in such a way to please this little girl. Even spirit beasts knew who was good and who was bad. Little thing. Ning Tianya glared at him. The wind fox was so scared that it shivered. Do you want to follow her? He grabbed the wind fox in his hand and said fiercely, don't play dumb with me. In front of us, you only want to take advantage of us. I'll crush you. Nod if you agree. If you don't, I'll crush you. Mo Qingwu anxiously cried out in distress, give it to me, give it to me. Don't bully my little Snow, okay? Her voice hadn't faded when she suddenly screamed. In her eyes, that little thing that couldn't understand human language was looking at her with eyes full of grievances. It then nodded in an aggrieved manner. Can it understand human language? Mo Qingwu was stunned. She opened her beautiful eyes wide. She pointed at this little thing and asked in a trembling voice. Spirit beast of spirit beast, how can it not understand human language? Ning Tianya rolled his eyes. Spirit beast of spirit beast of spirit beast. Jiu Du Xing and the others exclaimed together, this harmless little thing that isn't even as big as a fist is a spirit beast of spirit beast of spirit beast of spirit beast. This adjective obviously made the wind fox very unhappy. It rolled its eyes, but didn't dare to flare up. Instead, it glared fiercely at Jiu Du Xing. Two supreme level experts are here. It can't run away even if it has great abilities. Have you thought it through? Yes or no? Ning Tianya roared again. The wind fox felt extremely wronged. Didn't Ju Cai already nod? Why does he have to nod again? It had no choice but to nod again. Humph. What are you waiting for? Don't tell me that you want to be as unruly as a wild animal. Ning Tianya wrinkled his brows and shouted, you still haven't recognized me as your master? Do you want this old man to crush a few of your bones? The wind fox shook twice in his hand. It pitifully looked at Mo Qingwu for a while. He saw that the little girl's eyes were full of love and affection. She looked at it for a long time. Then, she let out a sigh in a very human-like manner. It was like a helpless sigh of a human. Forget it, forget it. It seems that I, the great Lord Windfox, will turn into a wisp of fox soul if I don't recognize this little girl as my master today. The wind fox shuddered and closed its eyes. Then, a white gas suddenly emitted from its head. The white gas got denser and denser, and gradually formed a circle. The circle was full of strange patterns. A pocket-sized wind fox was squatting in the middle of the circle. It was only the size of a finger. At the same time, a strange fragrance burst out. Suddenly, the wind-eared fox's body began to emit a sweet fragrance. Little girl, Feng, bite your finger and drip a drop of blood on the forehead of this little wind fox in the circle. Quickly. Ning Tianya urged. Why? The little girl tilted her head and asked. If you do this little thing will belong to you from now on. Ning Tianya was dumbfounded. Other people would be willing to break their heads if they encountered such a good thing. But, this little girl is asking why. Ning Tianya would have sent someone flying with a slap if it had been someone else. But, he couldn't bear to do this to this little girl. Really? Mo Qingwu replied. Then, she happily went to bite her own finger. Then, she said in a somewhat pitiful manner, but, it will hurt a lot. Ning Tianya was helpless. He grabbed her little hand and scratched it with his fingernail. A drop of blood seeped out from her hand. He held her little hand and pressed it on the forehead of the little wind fox in the circle. Just as the blood came into contact with the little wind fox, a white light suddenly shone from the wind fox's body. It shrouded its little body and Mo Qingwu. All kinds of mysterious symbols suddenly flew out of the circle and spun rapidly. Then, with a whoosh, they slowly merged into Mo Qingwu's body. Chu Yang's eyes didn't turn away. He was relieved. Didn't this mean that the little girl had a super bodyguard who was at least a monarch-level spirit beast? This is a spirit beast contract. It's an extremely rare thing in the heavenly continent. Ning Tianya flaunted. Unless the spirit beast is willing to offer a wisp of its soul to form an ancient contract pattern, it's impossible to successfully form a hoof knot with external force. So that's how it is. Chu Yang nodded silently. No wonder I've never heard of this thing. It's so difficult. Which spirit beast of this level isn't an extremely proud overlord? What kind of spirit beast would willingly hand over its own spirit essence? It's done. Bu Liu Qing came over and clicked his tongue in wonder. My disciple is amazing. She hasn't even entered the sect and she has already subdued a spirit beast as a pet. Ning Tianya rudely interrupted. What do you mean by your disciple? That's my disciple. The wind fox gloomily rolled its eyes. What do you mean by subduing a spirit beast as a pet? If you two old farts weren't here, you would have let this little girl try to subdue me. Luo Kudi and Ji Mo looked at Mo Qing Wu enviously. This little girl is so lucky. 2 supreme-level experts are fighting to take her as a disciple. She even subdued a spirit beast as a pet, especially Luo Kudi. He suddenly felt somewhat tragic when he thought of the half-dead little beast he was raising. Why is the gap between people so big? Mo Qing Wu only felt a little dizzy. It seemed that there was something extra in her head. She looked at the wind fox again and felt more and more familiar. A clear thought came over. Master. The voice was tender and pitiful. Wow. Are you talking to me? Mo Qing Wu jumped 3 feet high. Then, she held the wind fox in her hands and started to play with it. She was immediately pulled over by Ning Tianya. The wind fox slipped into Mo Qing Wu's pocket. Little Wu, quickly worship me as your master. Your master has given you a wind fox. Ning Tianya anxiously urged. The wind fox in Mo Qing Wu's pocket popped out again. It looked at this guy with contempt. What do you mean by you? Can you afford to give me, Lord Wind Fox? Worship me as your master. He can't. Look at this old man. He's so sloppy. If you follow him as his disciple, such a beautiful girl will become ugly. Bu Liu Qing came over. Mo Qing Wu was in a dilemma. She bit her lip and said, but I don't want to worship you as my master. Chu Yang patted her shoulder and said, Little Wu, this is your chance. Don't miss it. Come back after you've learned my martial arts. Won't you be able to protect Brother Chu Yang then? Brother Chu Yang is still waiting for you to protect him. Mo Qing Wu's gaze suddenly froze. After a long time, she bit her lip and said with tears in her eyes, if Brother Chu Yang says so, then so be it. But what if I can't see you anymore? Chu Yang said patiently, think about it. You're going to protect me for a lifetime. You won't be able to see me for a few years, but you can protect Brother Chu Yang for a lifetime. How good is that? How could Chu Yang let the little girl give up this chance? This was a disciple of a supreme martial artist. Although Chu Yang was reluctant, such a chance was not something that could be encountered normally. It was rare for these 10,000-year-old monsters to come out. Now that they had encountered them, how could they let them go? Chapter 524. The two were discussing in a low voice here. But, the 2 supreme-level experts were already arguing with each other. It seemed that they were about to fight. Both of them had heard Chu Yang's advice to Mo Qing Wu. The little girl was still unwilling. But, it was a foregone conclusion that she would become a disciple. The only question now was, who would be her disciple? The disciple is mine. Ning Tianya said angrily. Bullshit. You don't deserve it. Bu Liu Qing angrily said, she's mine. The 2 supreme-level experts glared at each other like fighting cocks. The terrifying aura around their bodies was on the verge of exploding. Who would be willing to back down at such a critical moment? She had a super physique that only existed in legends. The 2 of them didn't like each other. But, they had exploded with just a few words. You back down. I'll reward you handsomely. You back down, and I'll give you everything. Why should I back down? Then, why me? Neither of them was willing to back down. The smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. In the end, they unanimously proposed a solution. You and I will fight. The winner will get a disciple. And the winner will claim the title of number 1 in the world. You should have done this earlier. The figures of the two staggered with a sure sound. One of them stretched out his left hand, and the other stretched out his right hand. The spirit energy in the air suddenly gathered in a terrifying manner. Cough cough. This junior has a good idea. Chu Yang coughed twice. These two old men were about to make this place collapse. So, Minister Chu had no choice but to come out and mediate. What idea? The two old men turned their heads to look at him. Why would they want to fight right now? The two of them had been fighting for more than 10,000 years. But they still couldn't decide the winner. So, it would be useless to fight right now. I have a good idea. It can let the two of you get a disciple. And it can also decide the winner. Moreover, it won't hurt your friendship. And it won't harm your bodies. Chu Yang smiled craftily. What's the good idea? Is there such a good idea? Ning Tianya and Bu Liu Qing's eyes lit up. Their 4 eyes suddenly emitted a substantial white light. It was as if 4 searchlights were fiercely shining on Chu Yang's body. So, the two seniors can get a disciple at the same time. In other words, both of you can take me as your masters at the same time. However, 1 month he would follow this master, and the next month he would follow another master. Comparing this month's progress with the next month's progress, it would be clear at a glance who would win and who would lose. Then, if you're not convinced, you can start to compare again from the 3rd month onwards. This way, until you finish your apprenticeship. Could it be that the two of you still can't determine a winner? Chu Yang smiled slyly. He chuckled twice and ended his long speech. So young. Ning Tianya stroked his chin, seemingly deep in thought. You're so young that you want to scheme against both of us old fellows and work our hearts out for this little girl? Furthermore, was it not okay to not put in the effort? Are you trying to enslave both of us? How dare you? Chu Yang smiled. This guy is too sinister. Bu Liu Qing also looked at Chu Yang from the corner of his eyes, too evil. Chu Yang smiled mischievously and said, What? You don't dare to compete? Are you afraid of losing to your opponent? He sighed and said, I also understand. Practicing martial arts and teaching disciples are 2 different things. It's normal that you don't have confidence. You can withdraw if you don't have confidence. You don't have to compete in this way, right? The 2 supreme experts glared at each other. They clearly knew that Chu Yang was provoking them. But who would admit defeat at this juncture? The disciple of the number 1 physique since ancient times would be gone if they admitted defeat. Ning Tianya opened his eyes wide. He said somewhat without confidence, but, this is a good idea. Bu Liu Qing's face darkened. He repeatedly nodded in a tangled manner. Yes, good idea, good idea. He looked at Chu Yang's eyes. It seemed as if he wanted to swallow this smirking guy into his stomach. The 2 supreme experts were somewhat depressed. They had wanted to swallow it all by themselves. But it had now become shared between the 2 of them. Especially Ning Tianya. He regretted it so much that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Would such a troublesome matter have happened if he had come down to accept a disciple at that time? Now, he had to figure out the disciple's physique clearly. He had to teach her wholeheartedly, and urge her with all his might. Moreover, he had to rack his brains to suppress the other party. However, most of the decision-making power to suppress the other party wasn't in his hands. Instead, it was in the disciple's hands. But this disciple was just a beautiful little girl. He couldn't beat her, nor could he scold her. In fact, she would probably cry if he were to scold her. The 2 supreme experts sighed in their hearts at the same time. They frowned and looked distressed. What should we do now? However, they looked at each other, and saw the tangled look on each other's face. Their spirits were suddenly lifted. He is also tangled. This is easy to handle. I don't believe that I can't suppress you, the 2 supreme experts fiercely snorted from their nostrils as they fiercely declared. Then, I will come for the 1st month. Bullshit. Why should it be you? The two confronted each other again like fighting cocks. Oh, you can decide this by rock paper scissors. Minister Chu couldn't help but interject. He wanted to resolve the dispute. You shut up. The two supreme experts turned their heads and shouted angrily, You've made us suffer. However, the two of them had no choice but to agree to rock paper scissors as they discussed it over and over again. Therefore, Bu Liu Qing won. He laughed 3 times. Ning Tianye lost. He touched his nose and didn't feel good about it. Then, he suddenly announced, I will move to Bu Liu Qing's place from today onwards. I will make sure that my precious disciple doesn't get harmed by Bu Liu Qing and so on. Of course, the general direction had already been decided. So, everything else was trivial. The two of them planned for a while. They almost haggled over every detail. They divided Mo Qing Wu's practice time between them. Then, they symbolically shook hands with each other with a belly full of grievances and resentment. They were also endlessly depressed and tangled. Then, a problem arose in the little girl's apprenticeship. There must be a sequence between the two masters, right? Who's the great master? Who's the second master? Chu Yang braved the danger of being scolded, and proposed, call them both masters. Master Ning, Master Bu, call them like this. We'll decide who's the great master and who's the second master when the little girl finishes her apprenticeship. In this way, Minister Chu's casual words had given the title of who is the number one under heaven to the little lowly who was still confused and didn't understand anything at all. You dare to not teach little Wu with all your heart. Ha ha, let's see if you'll do your best. This is a matter of reputation that will last for thousands of years. I don't believe that you don't care. Why would you fight for the title of number one in the world for thousands of years if you didn't care? You're ruthless. The two supreme-level experts pinched their noses and endured sullenly. Both of them were shrewd people. They could see that this little girl was the backbone of that little girl. What if this little girl became unhappy and said, Little Wu, I don't want to be your apprenticeship? That little girl would raise both her hands and feet in approval. Then, she would turn around and leave without any hesitation. The two of them would lose everything if that happened. They wouldn't be able to get a disciple either. The two of them casually clenched their fists, and 2 high platforms appeared on the ground. They sat on the high platforms in a dignified manner, and accepted the little girl's worship. Then, they scrambled to say, My beloved disciple, please rise. Looking at these words, it was obvious that they were spoiling her. A master was talking to his disciple, and he was using the word please. Let's go. We should go back early so that we can lay the foundation for this little girl. Bu Liu Qing was somewhat impatient. This month is my elder brother Chu Yang. The little girl's mouth flattened, and tears streamed down her face. She opened her arms, and walked over to him, and hugged him tightly. I can't bear to leave you. It's all right, it's only for a short time. Be good. Chu Yang felt somewhat uncomfortable in his heart. But, he still forced a smile and said, Ask your master to take you to see me if you miss me too much. Okay, Mo Qing Wu's eyes lit up. She nodded heavily. She loosened her hands, and slowly drew back. Her big eyes were full of reluctance. She drew back a few steps. Then, she suddenly jumped up, and threw herself into Chu Yang's arms. She whimpered, and kissed Chu Yang's face with all her might. But, she felt that it wasn't enough. So, she kissed him a few more times. Then, she moved closer to Chu Yang's ear, and said, Elder brother Chu Yang, you won't forget me, right? Of course, Chu Yang replied, how can I forget my Qing Wu? Then, you kiss me, Mo Qing Wu pouted, and tilted her head to look at him. Chu Yang moved closer, and kissed the little girl's face twice. Bu Liu Qing and Ning Tianye looked on anxiously. They were full of jealousy. This bastard is kissing my disciple. My disciple is so young. Chu Yang held Mo Qing Wu tightly in his arms. He greedily breathed in the fresh scent of the little girl's body. A long while passed. Then, he endured the sourness in his heart, and resolutely put her down. He then said, Let's go. Elder brother Chu Yang will wait for you to come back. Okay. The little girl turned around, and walked a few steps. She looked back 3 times with tearful eyes. You can't. Can't what? The little girl didn't say it out loud. She only turned her head and looked at Chu Yang in a daze. She was so young, but her eyes were filled with sadness and longing. Let's go. Ning Tianya was somewhat impatient. He waved his hand and wanted to leave with his disciple. Hey. Chu Yang coughed and said, Supreme Masters, I've helped you get a good disciple. I've also solved a big problem for you. Don't you have anything to say? Say. Bu Liu Qing ferociously looked at him. Little one, don't take advantage of us. Our lives will be in your hands for the rest of our lives. And, you still want benefits. You've gone crazy thinking about it. There's nothing to say. So, I've been busy for half a day in vain. Chu Yang's expression was somewhat gloomy and funny. The little girl, who was looking at him with a sorrowful expression, couldn't help but chuckle. Go away. Ning Tianya glared at him. Chu Yang shouted loudly, Qing Wu, when you get there, you must get some good things from your two masters. If you don't need them, you can give them to your elder brother Chu Yang. The more, the better. Your two masters have a lot of good things. Mo Qing Wu firmly clenched her small fist and waved it. Elder brother Chu Yang, don't worry. I'll squeeze them dry. I'll give them all to you, elder brother Chu Yang. The two supreme masters staggered and nearly fell to the ground. Are we getting a disciple or a hungry wolf? Chapter 525. The two great masters didn't dare to stay any longer. If they stayed any longer, their old bones might be taken away by their disciple as a gift. He had to quickly go back and educate them. How could he give the things of his own sect to others? Especially since this guy had a belly full of evil tricks, all the more he couldn't give it to him. Mo Qing Wu waved her hand and bade farewell to Jiu Duxing and the others. Bu Liu Qing hastily picked Mo Qing Wu up when he saw that the little girl's eyes were about to flicker with tears. Then, he took the lead and flew away. Ning Tianya followed closely behind, not daring to stray even an inch away from her. He was afraid that his disciple would be monopolized by Bu Liu Qing if he was a step late. The silhouette had already disappeared. But, Mo Qing Wu's loud screams could still be heard in the air. Elder brother Chu Yang, wait for me. I will come back to protect you. With a smile on his face, Chu Yang looked at the void in front of him and waved his hand gently. His heart felt empty, lost, and a strong reluctance, but he didn't show it. She just smiled faintly, her eyes warm and firm. Qing Wu, of course I will wait for you. You don't know. I've been waiting for you all my life. Qing Wu, I have finally reversed your fate. From the moment you were taken away by Ji Zun, I finally felt completely at ease about your fate. His life was already different. They must have gone to the Mo clan. Mo wiped his eyes and laughed. He wanted to show that he was not sad about parting and was very strong, but this smile was like the cry of a duck, extremely unpleasant to the ears. If it was in the past, everyone would have made fun of him. But now, no one laughed at him. They only nodded silently. Everyone was not used to the sudden absence of this little girl who loved to talk and laugh by their side. With Mo Qing Wu's character, she had no choice but to return to the Mo clan. First, he had to go back and say goodbye. Second, he had to get his dreaming of a gentle dance saber. After a long while, Chu Yang said indifferently, let's go too. There are too many things waiting for us in the northern wastelands. Everyone agreed and walked back. On the way back, everyone was strangely silent. Even Mo and Luo Kudi, who had been making jokes and pranks, were so silent that it was somewhat frightening. Boss, I'm going to practice. Mo finally turned his head and said after walking a long distance. Extra training? Chu Yang frowned. Yes, I want to train as well. Luo Kedi stood up as well. It's fine if others look down on me, but even Ji Zun said that we have no future. Mo gritted his teeth and said, I must fight for a bright future. Sometimes, the words of a supreme martial artist are just like farts. That's right. Luo Kudi responded. His eyes were bloodshot as he said, we must fight for our dignity. If I don't fight back, I'm afraid I won't have any hope in this life. Chu Yang sighed and said, you must be mentally prepared. This isn't something that can be decided by hot-headedness. This decision of yours means that countless lives will be lost, and we can't help you. Yes. I've thought it through. Jimo's eyes flickered with determination. In this life, unless I kill myself, I will become a supreme master. Me too. Luo Kudi said firmly. Good. A cold light flashed in Chu Yang's eyes as he said, since you have made a decision, then don't change it. There was no need to wait for tomorrow. Let's start today. From now on. This northern wasteland is our battlefield. Kill everyone here for me. A murderous intention flashed in Chu Yang's eyes, whether it's a human or a spirit beast. Remember, you won't get any help from us in every battle from now on. Every battle is a life and death experience. Live to get promoted, or die. Jiyu Du Xing, Dong Wu Shong. You too must remember that you are not allowed to save Jimo and Luo Kudi even if they die in front of you from now on. Chu Yang said sternly, men must face their own battles alone. Yes. The four brothers agreed together. They looked at each other, and revealed a resolute look. How could one rely on other people's help on the road to becoming a powerhouse? They walked out in silence for a while, and saw a dense crowd in front of them. It was a group of experts of the dark bamboo. The two people in the lead were Ju Qiu and Jun Shizhu. Where's little Wu? Jun Shizhu swept her eyes, and found that one person was missing. So, she couldn't help but ask. Her master took her away. Chu Yang was somewhat listless as he said, she has worshipped Ning Tianya and Bu Liu Qing as her masters. His Jun Shizhu sucked in a cold breath, she has worshipped two supreme-level experts as her masters at the same time? She thought in her heart, is it possible that little Wu's 3-yin meridian is protected by the spiritual power of these two supreme-level experts? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. She couldn't help but rejoice in her heart. Fortunately, I didn't do anything to this little girl at that time. Otherwise, I would have been done for. Two supreme-level experts. Chu Yang, we've been waiting for you here for a matter. Ju Qiu insipidly said, we've already obtained the blood essence and inner core of a spirit beast. So, Dark Bamboo and I are going to start our closed-door training. I'm afraid that this closed-door training will take a long time. Oh. Chu Yang's eyes revealed a doubtful look. The strength of the dark bamboo will go into the shadows during our closed-door training. Lu will be in charge of it. I've already passed down an order. None of the members of the dark bamboo are allowed to cause trouble. Ju Qiu looked at Chu Yang with a faint smile on his face. Then, he said with a meaningful tone, we won't be in the three heavens for now. So, you can cause trouble as you wish. The voice of these words drilled into Chu Yang's ears. It was subtle yet clear. Then, he took 2 steps back and said in a loud voice, wait for me to come out. I'll properly train them for you. Then, he and Jun Shizhu took a step back at the same time, and bid farewell to Chu Yang and the others. Then, they didn't turn their heads back. They led everyone, and sped away, and disappeared from the line of sight of Chu Yang and the others. This matter had happened so quickly, and had ended so straightforwardly. Jiyu Du Xing and the others were somewhat overwhelmed. Does this mean that the biggest underground organization in the three heavens will temporarily withdraw from the Jianghu? Wouldn't the three heavens be even more chaotic without the terrifying restriction of the dark bamboo? Chaos is good. Heroes emerge in troubled times. Dong Wu Shong snorted and said, then, let's kill to our heart's content. That's right. Let's kill to our heart's content during this period of time. Jiyu Du Xing let out a loud shout. His heroic spirit soared as he said, our heavenly armament pavilion should shine brightly since the dark bamboo won't come out. The 5 brothers looked at each other, and smiled knowingly. Then, they took out the masks of the heavenly armament pavilion from their bosoms at the same time. The northern wilderness was in chaos for the next few days. Everyone who had come here regarded each other as an enemy. So, it was inevitable that 2 groups of people would come across each other. There was no reason to reason with them. However, the heavenly armament pavilion had already caused a terrifying upheaval along the way in the past few days. And, it had once again displayed the illustrious prestige of this organization. A few strange people wearing masks were moving unhindered in the northern wilderness. They were killing people and robbing their belongings. They were doing everything they could. Sometimes, they were in pairs. Sometimes, they were alone. Sometimes, they were in groups of 4 or 5. They would come and go with a whistling sound. And they would leave with a whistling sound. There was only one result for anyone who came across them: they would be robbed, killed, or crippled. These people were being unreasonable. They had given the experts of the 3 heavens who had come here to look for spirit beasts and hunt for spirit beasts' blood. And they had slowly gained a reputation, but it was a bad reputation. Chu Yang flew all the way. He faced the wind and snow. His sword flashed and cut the throat of an expert in front of him. Then, he disappeared along with the swordlight. The brothers had separated to gain experience for the 7th day. Chu Yang had been searching in the direction of the Calamity Sword during these 7 days. He had harvested elixirs and rare treasures. Sometimes, he would find out that there was someone else who had arrived first. And that could lead to a big battle. His current cultivation and the sharpness of the Calamity Sword had made him almost unrivaled. Of course, Chu Yang would have turned around and fled if he had come across 1 or 2 Emperor-level experts. He was extremely slippery. So, he didn't have to worry about the experts below Emperor-level experts catching up with him with his agility. Moreover, he had the Sword Spirit's killer weapon ready at any time. So, it didn't matter if the opponent caught up with him. The Sword Spirit would attack, and his sword would kill. Therefore, Minister Chu had collected a lot of good things along the way. And everything was going smoothly. Well, he couldn't be called Minister Chu anymore. He should be called Great Pavilion Master Chu. The only thing that made Great Pavilion Master Chu dissatisfied was that he hadn't found the Sword Spirit's remnant soul. This was his main purpose in coming here. So, how could he give up if he couldn't find it? Therefore, he continued to look for it. Jiu Du Xing and Dong Wu Shong had deliberately increased their cultivation time during this time. And they had reduced their fighting time in order to comprehend their own sword and saber realms. On the other hand, Luo Ku Di and Ji Mo had recklessly increased the duration of their fights. The 2 of them were like 2 mad tigers. They were unscrupulously challenging and looting everywhere. They were riddled with scars every day. And they were on the verge of death several times every day. However, their hearts were slowly being tempered to become more and more tenacious. The 2 of them had firmly remembered Chu Yang's words: only after surviving 100 deaths can one become a powerhouse. Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Its fierce and illustrious name was born from this. Chu Yang had just picked up a cold ice spirit fruit from under the layer of ice when he suddenly heard the sound of clothes fluttering in the air. Chu Yang's spirit was lifted. Could it be that another fat sheep has come knocking? He quietly peeked out to take a look. He saw that these people were wearing black clothes. And their faces were covered with black and gold masks. They looked gloomy and frightening. That unique aura made Chu Yang's murderous intent rise. They were the people of the Hei Mo clan. He saw that these people were quickly looking for hiding places. It seemed that they were going to ambush someone. Chu Yang was thinking about whether he should make a move now. Suddenly, the sound of 2 people talking came through the whistling wind. Chu Yang was startled. Then, his eyes emitted a divine light of excitement. The blood in his body seemed to have become somewhat scorching. "Master, where did that bastard Chu Yang go? Why can't we find him after such a long time?" A voice like a duck's voice was mixed with the howl of a wolf. And there was a strong shock in it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.